recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Hello! Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And today I'd like to personally welcome you to a very special episode. This is the 2021 Year in Review. Not only will we be discussing some of the year's biggest news stories and events that took place during this crazy and wild year known as 2021, but we'll also be covering some of our own favorite and least favorite personal moments. In addition, we'll also be highlighting some of our top picks for the best movies, television, and much, much more. So let's get this thing started. We have a lot to talk about here. Joining me in today's conversation from a super secret location somewhere in Washington State is a man who will definitely have something to say about these last 12 months. You can bet on that. He is my buddy, my friend, the one and only, Mr. Lee Olson. All right, Lee, welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm all right. Yeah, we're at the end of 2021. I can't believe it.
You excited? You excited about the new
I mean,
year
it seems weird, but ever since 2020 started, I kind of feel like we've all been waiting for the next year to start, right? I thought maybe 2021 was going to be better when we'd be past that, but no, I'm ready for just whatever the next year is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the worst year, like for a lot of stuff, but in many ways it was pretty bad. So we're gonna cover that. We're gonna cover a lot more. We've spent lots of New Year's together, so
that's true.
Unfortunately, they weren't the greatest New Year's when we were spending them together. But we're gonna. I mean,
sort of. Looking back, they actually worked pretty rad. It's like, have you done many things that were way better on New Year's?
It's good point. Good point. New Year's is always one of my least favorite moments of the year. We're like, oh, all right, I'm not a millionaire again. Oh, this is great.
Right, and there's no denying that you are at least 1 year older.
Yeah, right. And, a lot of people have, passed on and they're not here anymore. But yeah, anyway, we'll get into all that stuff. But I'm glad that you're here with me to celebrate the end of this year and look forward to next year. So
perfect.
All right, so just like that, man. Boom. It's over. Like your dad once said. Time keeps speeding up, man. Just keeps speeding up every year.
It does. Yeah. It's weird. I was talking with my trainer at the gym, and I think I've arrived at some sort of unscientific approach to this. I think when you're young, you're taking in all this stuff, and it's all sort of threat, or it's some sort of version of things that you have to take account for. And then as you get older, you realize that most of the stuff you don't have to pay attention to. Which means basically we just walk through days and weeks and months now without ever acknowledging that the world around us exists anymore. And that's why it speeds up, because we've done everything. We've seen it, we've accounted for it, and our brains have already thrown it in the bin. Yeah,
it's a good point. I mean, yeah, it's pretty wild. We're going to go through a lot of stuff here, man. We're going to go through a lot of stuff, so we're just going to get right into this. I've compiled this list, and it's quite a big list that we're going to try to get through here, so we're just going to get right into it. Now, I've been doing this lists kind of like this for a good part of 10 years now. So this is people that have... Facebook actually took down the notes section where I used to post all this and with all the links and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I'll just make a video of it, and we'll just do it this way. It'll be easier to watch and get through anyway. So... Now, this year, we're going to start with our personal accomplishments, and there's every year there's going to be some accomplishments that you have, that you can celebrate or, look back upon. The first one that I want to start off with are my biggest accomplishments. I'm just going to kind of list them off. They're not really things that are able to be discussed. I paid off my truck. That's a good one. That was a good one, right? I hit over 6,700 followers on TikTok. That's pretty wild, because I don't even think I have 1,000 on YouTube. So it's pretty crazy. I finished my Seahawks video special on YouTube.
Dude, those are so rad.
It took literally the entire summer. So if anybody has not seen any of those little video clips that I made, go back, check them out. I mean, there's some good ones in there that Ethan and I did.
They're so good. I'm so happy you guys did those. They're so rad.
They were
Jewel and I
pretty
have been enjoying those, and then I'll just throw them on randomly while I'm working and just let it kind of go from one to the next. They're awesome.
That's funny, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. And just some other stuff, like I posted my YouTube trailer for this, and need to update that eventually here. But yeah, there's some good stuff, good positive stuff that I accomplished for this year. How about yourself, man?
Man, I mean, this year was kind of a weird slow motion or fast motion blur. Nothing really changed for us, except for my work, we've been as busy as we've ever been, trying to figure out ways to do more with less again. But as far as the rest of it, we didn't travel as much, obviously. And basically the coolest thing for me, I think, was taking on that, it's a dumb little challenge, but just the GoRuck challenge. GoRuck is a company that does backpacks and some other stuff, but they have adventure racing and some other stuff. And they just had a challenge that was an entire year long. You just go out and backpack, basically just take a weighted pack out. But I did every single sort of workout they had. And I don't really care about backpacking. I don't really care much for the, sort of accolades or anything. They send you a little patch or whatever. But the point of sticking with something throughout the year was really cool for me. And it was cool, especially in 2021, where everybody's kind of still freaked out about public spaces, and there's a lot going around. Getting out and backpacking was pretty rad, and I did it almost every day.
Don't forget that you did that big bid this year. How much is that worth?
Well, I mean, so we ended up getting about $1 million worth of work. I, in fact, have a meeting with those guys tomorrow. It was originally $15 million in work that we could have been up for. We weren't by any means guaranteed to get that, but I spent a lot of time on that. I've been working on that bid for close to 4 years. So to have that kind of turn into a contract feels nice, because they certainly could have just said, "Hey, thanks, F off,"
right.
Which happens, but we just put the work in and see where it leads. And that one at least is going to lead to some work, which is gratifying. But it's also, we're kind of in a weird spot for our company, because we have so much work to do, and we're all really burned up because we can't find people to help us out in the field. And so it's kind of weird to celebrate getting more work. Right. All of us are just terrified by getting more work. We just have so much work to do.
You're like, great. Anybody want to help out with all this work that we have?
Right. No? There's nobody coming. I mean, I take that back. We are bringing on some people that I'm going to try and train them to do what I do, so that maybe I can bump up and help Brian a little bit. But
you ever think about getting back into the workforce and hauling some papers?
No. No. That's
all right.
Nope.
So, biggest inconvenience for this year. I like how this is even a thing, but it was pretty serious for me. The biggest inconvenience for me was my iPhone breaking all of a sudden. And I'm like, I use the thing a lot. I update, Facebook pages. I run the Seahawks fan page. I do all my stuff that I update it a lot. I do a lot of stuff with it. And here I am. I'm phoneless now, and that was like for a week and a half or something like that. So I'm like sitting there, I guess on my other devices. It was crazy.
I'm so glad that led to you getting the correct phone, getting an Android, right? You guys and your goddamn iPhones. My phone never has a problem. But you guys are stuck with Steve Jobs in 2007.
Oh, I know. Steve Jobs. Gosh, why did he die again?
I don't know, but when he died, Apple died with it. I don't know why you guys stick with this.
In many ways, you are correct. So that was terrible. Are there any big inconveniences that you suffered this year? Probably not, because you don't have an iPhone.
No, well, I don't have an iPhone, and also, I think when everybody went remote, that was a huge issue for them, and sort of, lots of people deal with pandemic stuff and just all those inconveniences that everybody kind of ran into in 2020 and 2021, childcare and all that stuff. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
I don't have it. Like, I already worked remote. I've been remote for a decade. I don't have kids. I don't have pets.
Like nothing, literally nothing changed on your front.
Nothing changed. I will say the biggest inconvenience for me, and this tells you how not inconvenient this year was for me, was the amount of people in the grocery store when I try to go shop. That was it. Like just kind of the off hours.
Was it more
stuff
or less?
Well, it's more because I used to be able to get away with, like, I'd go shop at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday,
right.
and there'd be a few blue hairs in there, but nobody really in there. Now it's just all the people all the time. So that's how not inconvenient my life is, and yeah,
that makes sense.
I had a pretty convenient year.
All right, so the angriest moments of this year. Now, I'm kind of more doing kind of like a personal right now. I mean, if you want to open it up, like, open up the
I know where you're going with that. Yeah.
But so for me, the HOA cuts down the only shade in my backyard, and I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Shade is like, it's priceless. You can't, I mean, I can't even buy shade because if I wanted to put something up, they'd be like, well, did you get approval for that? I'm like, oh, but you can cut down on my shade, but I can't replace it with, all right. So I went ballistic on a thing, and I had to apologize after that. But I sent them messages about that. People are starting to park in the courtyard area when I get out. So I'm like, I have to do sometimes I can't even take a left out of my place, so I have to take a right, and I have to do an Austin Powers with my truck and try to get out.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
I like that your HOA is. Yeah, they can't keep people from doing the shit that they exist for, but they can sure cause harm.
Exactly. And there's nothing that I can do. I send them messages and I go, look, I know you're not the police, so you're not gonna be able to really do anything. Right.
But at least try. Try to do the things.
I mean, they send out messages. They're like, hey, don't park in. But the people are like, yeah, that's great. What are you gonna do? And I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay. Can I call a towing company? I don't know.
Right.
But
for me, I don't know. I didn't have any real angry moments. I think the closest was probably a business one where a contract it was another project that I worked on for close to 4 years to get the contract, and it's been a mess from the start. The company that we ended up working for, I won't name them, but they are not well organized. They've had their management group turn over, I think, 3 or 4 times since we've been there, and we had another $1 million in work. We're currently doing a bunch of work for them, and then we had another $1 million in work to do, and they just messed things up so badly that we had our guy on site call and say, hey, it looks like somebody else is doing the work that we were supposed to do. And so I sent an email to him saying, hey, looks like you got somebody else doing the work that we were supposed to do. And they said, yeah, we chose another company. And I said, okay, interesting. Were you guys going to let us know?
You're like sitting there waiting.
and I was pretty fired up, and thankfully Brian is the levelest head person I know. I said, I think you should probably handle this because I'm not going to handle it well. But that was as close as I got. But honestly, we're so busy, and I don't know that we could have done the work anyway. So it's one of those things where I was super angry with how they handled it, but the actual impact of it was very low. So, I can be angry about that, but it passed pretty quickly. We got other shit to do.
Yeah, that'd be frustrating. Gosh, when it comes to money too, that's just another added money work.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all just drinking from a fire hose right now. So, if somebody stopped hitting us from one direction, it's almost better. I mean, we're leaving money on the table, but also we're just tired. We're all tired. So,
favorite quotes of the year. Now, these are both of these belong to Jen because I hung out with Jen quite a bit this year. So, just one of these things where it's just now these are comments that I sound like something I would have told you when we were driving around back in the day. In the truck. Here's one. She goes, isn't Godzilla a big giant gorilla? And I was like, I just stared at her. I was like, what? Is this real? Or am I on camera? And then the very next day, I don't know if she was just, her head was damaged from, having some alcohol the night before. The very next day, she says, she goes, I thought C-3PO was a real robot. And I was like, what? Because I was talking about the guy that played C-3PO.
Right.
I thought he was a real. I was like, what? Are you joking? Or so those are kind of fun. She's usually a very pretty smart person, but again, those are comments that I would have made to you that are probably smarter than some of the stuff I used to say to you. So but anyway, Lee, do you have any
I'm sure
many people say dumb things to you all the time.
Yeah, and actually, like I don't have any much. We got to sort of remember, I'm not a super social person anyway, so I don't really go out and talk to people, and so I don't really catch a bunch of quotes from people. But there are two things that sort of come to mind, and one of them was this one's with the rucking, whatever. Just the part where the resilience of just continuing to go. Their company GoRuck has a thing, just DFQ, just don't fucking quit. And that was going through my head a lot this year as I was doing stuff, because there were a bunch of the backpacks that were like, a 13 miler with a 55 pound pack. You got nothing to do. I put a book on and you just start going. There's nobody pushing you. There's nothing else. And occasionally that quote will come through my head, like, just don't fucking quit. Yeah. That's it. Just DFQ, don't fucking quit. Yeah. So there's that kind of that motivational.
I love that.
Yeah.
It comes up a lot. Don't quit. I saw this like video just yesterday. I saw this video. I don't know who posted it or what, but it was like it was like they were showing like a one of those relay races, and this girl like hands off the baton, right, to this other chick, and you should see how fast this chick goes around the track. I've never seen a chick like go this fast like around a track, and she passes like 3 people and wins the race. And I was like, whoa, they were so far behind, and I was like, don't ever quit. It said like that's the headline, don't ever quit. And I was like, don't ever quit. That's like last year with
DK Metcalf.
Exactly. Yeah.
So. Well, and it's just, and for me, obviously, I'm not going to be winning any competitions, but just that part where it's like, there's a way that you can win. Even if you're not competing against other people, just don't quit. Just keep going. So that was kind of the quote that was wafting through my head a lot this year, just because of the stuff I was doing. But then there's another one in my gym. I only talked to a couple people, and one of them, there's a bunch of cops in there. One of them is a young cop named Mullins, and I had shaved my beard into just a really rude mustache. And
love when you do that.
Yeah, and he and I were talking about it, and he said something. He had a beard, and I said, "Man, you could really pull off a sweet mustache." He's like, "I don't know if I can pull that off." And I looked at him, I was like, "Yeah, you're not ready for this mustache." and the coolest thing is, he just looked at me and goes, "You're right, I'm not." And I was like, "You need to be at least," because he's young. He's probably like 25. And I was like, "Hey, man, yeah, when you're 35, you can try this mustache, but not yet." And so that became a thing. You're not ready for this mustache.
That's awesome. I saw a quote that I thought that was like really, usually when I'll see a quote, I was like, yeah, all right, okay. But I saw this quote on TikTok, and it came up, and all it was is just a question. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like my deep thought question of this year when I saw it. And I was like, oh man. So Lee, here's a question for you. Here's that question. Okay. So it said, if you were in a room with all of the people that you've ever met in your life, who would be the one person that you look for? And I was like, whoa, that's pretty, it's hardcore. I was like, I have no idea. But maybe you have an idea.
That is interesting. Well, I think it changes over time. Like, I mean, obviously if you answer that today, it's not going to be the same as tomorrow or the next day, whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some people who are gone that would be cool to see. Top of my head right now is my grandfather, just because it'd be cool to sort of appreciate the stuff. He passed away in 2000 when I was in my 20s, and I think it'd be cool to just talk to him now with the perspective I have as a middle-aged person.
Right.
But I guarantee if you asked me that tomorrow, it'd be a different question, or it'd be a different answer. There's of all the people I've ever met, put them all in a room, who would I seek out first?
Pretty crazy, huh?
That's a nutty thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. Deep thoughts, folks. All right. So old man problems. I have one of these every year, man. And I'm sure this list is not going to get any shorter. And I'm not going to be skipping over this one each year. Old man problems. I noticed that I always like lay on my side or something like that. Now I'm like, I lay on my side, on my right side. And I was like, my hip hurts. My hip is starting to hurt. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, now I have to switch to my other hip.
Oh God.
And I was like, oh man, really? It doesn't it's not excruciating, but it's definitely annoying. So do you have any annoying pains?
And that's a dumb question, because I've been fighting this for legitimately for the last 5 years anyway. I've made it an active pursuit to try and outrun some of this shit. But this year kind of new is I've had over the last few years lots of nerve compression stuff because of herniated discs and whatnot. But lately, or at least this year, now sleeping, my arms will go dead, like really all the way. And it's also when I'm rucking. Like sometimes I'll have to loop my thumb into my backpack into a loop on it because it's totally dead while I'm rucking.
Yeah.
But it's pretty scary when you're asleep and like your arm is totally asleep, like not like pins and needles asleep, but like you could lift it up and you can feel that your arm is warm. You can feel that your arm is warm with your other hand, but there's no other feeling. And that's happened a few times and it freaks me out because you wake up and you're like, this isn't good. And that's been happening a lot. So my sleep has been impacted. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is, nerve compression and all that stuff, because your body will wake you up.
Yeah.
Doing that. So that's my newest. Sleep. Yeah, and that's my newest old man thing is I can't even fucking sleep now. Like, you're not gonna let me sleep. Like, you're supposed to be able to nap, and maybe this is why old men nap in the middle of the day, because they don't sleep at night, because they're like, oh, my hip, oh, my arm, oh god, and then they get downstairs in front of the TV and they're like, oh, I need sleep.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. Yeah, you're like, oh, that's so true too. Like when you watch that, Christmas Vacation, the old man's always like sitting there sleeping and stuff like that.
Maybe that's why, because they're not sleeping at night. Right. Their hips hurt.
All right. So this one has changed a little bit over the last couple of years, but only because one of the people is no longer on Facebook. So this was the biggest shit stirrers on Facebook.
Okay.
And the award this year, once again, for like the third year or fourth year in a row, is a tie between Brian Riddle and Sean Davis.
Interesting.
Sean
Davis.
All
right. I can see both of those.
So congratulations to both of you.
Yeah, they're both super internet trolls.
Yep. I don't know if anybody. I mean, there's so many people that just love to stir up shit. But I
think what's happening though too with internet trolling, I think it's starting to have a little less power. I think people are starting to understand that they're getting trolled a little bit better. Like, I still don't think we're there, but like, I think, when Facebook first started, or like, we're all still getting used to being able to communicate this freely. And then you run into people, Riddle is in person, the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He's amazing. I love hanging out with him. But online, he's a super troll. And I think people are starting to make that connection that internet person is not the same as real person.
Right.
And maybe
and a lot of times you can just literally snooze a person, or
totally.
Not, I'll keep you as a friend. I'll just not like see your posts unless they're super important,
Yeah.
So,
well, and the trolls might actually end up being very important, because we need to find a way to have thicker skin in communicating with each other. Otherwise we're in trouble. So maybe these guys are doing us all a service by getting us to ignore
I don't
idiocy.
Snooze either one of those guys.
Yeah, you just let it be, and then if you disagree with them, fucking who cares?
Ignore
them. Just turn the channel.
Exactly. But both of those guys can be highly entertaining, and in person, a lot different. Well, I don't know. I haven't hung out with Sean since high school.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Sean was always kind of a dick, but
yeah. And I mean, maybe he's super nice in person, but internet, he is a troll.
Right. All right. So, I don't know if you have any of those. I mean, the one person I was talking about that used to serve a lot of shit was Art.
Yeah. He went away. He went away on the internet.
Yeah. Which is probably good. He's probably a lot more sane now.
I think he's smarter. He's smarter than us.
Yeah. Heard he's doing pretty well. He's doing good.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I could see that. For me,
I've always loved Art.
I think me too. He and I see eye to eye on a bunch of stuff. But I think for me also, I have a benefit of from the very start, I approached the internet very cautiously. I don't have very much stuff that's real on the internet, and so I've always had sort of that relationship with it, that it's for entertainment purposes only. And for me, I don't really have that sort of thing, this shit stirs or whatever, because like I don't have any real information out there myself. So I don't really expect people to put real information, and when they do, it actually confuses me. So yeah.
Lee, the proudest moment of this year. Do you have a moment that you're really proud of? I mean, I know these are kind of like blending into some of these, but do you have I'll give you my proudest moment, like very. So seeing Lisa Jo Trout finally get featured on Evening Magazine for her 80s house, her 80s time capsule house. So if you haven't seen that, Google it. It's awesome. And I did a podcast with Lisa, and it was really fun going through like how she got into that, all that stuff, and her dream was to be featured on Evening Magazine, which is kind of like a variety show or like a local news kind of feel good story show for the Seattle area. But anyway, so she got featured on that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and dude, that house looks rad. I totally want to stay there at some point.
Have you been there? Have you?
No, I've never been there. I've only seen it online. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's like a museum.
Yeah. What a cool idea too. I just love it.
Every time I see someone like with an 80s house, like one of her 80s house, I'll shoot her like a message on Facebook. I'm like, "Yep, you got to check this out." She goes, "Thank you, give me more ideas." And I'm like, "What are you gonna do? Is this whole house gonna be like?" It's a huge house that she had. So it's like, and it's only the downstairs right now that's like the 80s house, and it's big. That's even big. So. Yeah, so
that's so rad.
That was cool, man. That was awesome. She's like, "Hey, just want to let you know, Evening is coming to my house," and I go, "What?"
That's so rad.
Because it's been like years in the making that she's been wanting to do that. So I was pretty stoked.
I love that when people do finally sort of accomplish something. And so two things came to mind. We said, kind of proudest moment. One of them is definitely your Seahawks thing. Because, dude, like watching you kind of go through that and doing, because you've been doing 12th Man and all that other stuff for a really long time. Yeah. But like I only know a little bit about editing and a little bit about how to pull that stuff together. And when you were talking about it, I was like, oh, neat, you're making a video. That's cool. And you kept saying, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. And I had no idea the enormity of it. I really didn't. And I wasn't paying you much attention to it because I was busy, sort of selfishly. Sure. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's still working on it. Great. And then when it came out, when those things started to come out, I was absolutely fucking blown away.
That's awesome.
By the enormity of them and how much work that must have taken. And they're all really good. I mean, that's the thing is if you put a bunch of work into it and they sucked, I'd still have kind of that pride. It'd be like, oh, okay, well, you put a lot of work into it. Yeah. But they're fucking awesome. And
yeah, it was fun, man.
That was the thing. Like Jewel and I just kept every episode we kept watching. We're like, God damn, these are good, and they're just
wanted to be like over the top. I was like,
Well, it's also just that thing where when people stick to something, and that sort of bleeds into almost, I guess, the theme for me this year was just keep going. That thing, once I realized how much work that it took to put together, and that it wasn't, I'm going to edit for a weekend or I'm going to edit for an evening, right. That it was like months for you. Yeah. Doing that and putting the work in and just letting the output happen. That's my other kind of proudest moment is, dude, there are a couple of workouts that I did this year that were fucking terrible. Like they were terrible. Like there was a 12 miler I did and it wasn't even super heavy. I think it was 55 pounds or something. But my body was on fire. My ankles were on fire. Just everything sucked. And I just kept going. My arm was numb. Everything was numb. And I remember getting back to the car and being just super proud in a way that, like, I don't know, I haven't experienced since maybe I hit a home run in baseball, where except it's different because I just kept fucking going and it all hurt. It hurt from mile 1 till the end and I just kept going. And that was kind of a cool, proud moment because in middle age, like you brought up before, like there's this old, like we're all having old man moments. I'm really, really having to work hard to keep some of those things at bay. Right. And getting through that and realizing my sort of threshold for pain is a lot higher than it was. That was super cool. So that was my own personal one.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, like sort of, for someone like me, like looking at you, that's like, that's hardcore, man. I'd be like, yeah, I would have been able to do that. Me and you, probably back in the day, like no problem at all. Like, 15, 20 years ago. But now it's like, ooh. And
well, the cool thing is though, that's why I'm doing it is because it's hard.
Yep.
I want to do hard things. So anyway, that's mine though.
That's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Any interesting foods or drinks that you discovered this year? Is it all kind of just pretty much the same thing?
I need to stop eating food and drink. I don't need to discover anything else.
I just know that if it weren't for Eric Tapia, bringing over crazy, weird seltzer drinks, and God, they're just so bad. Like they're, I think the companies know that they're like, well, look, we know they're not good, but people like Eric will buy these and we'll keep creating different kinds, like different, hey, this is the Thanksgiving pack. Hey, this is the Christmas pack. This is the 4th of July
marketing.
pack.
Yeah.
And so Eric's like, you know what, I'm going to try this. And then I'm going to make Josh drink these. And I'll know he'll hate them. And I will get a kick out of it.
Yes. Yep.
So
that's marketing.
probably,
That's marketing.
Exactly. So thanks, Eric. So biggest purchases. I got a new TV, new computer, which were both long overdue. They were massively old. So they just needed to be upgraded. Basically, I didn't get any extravagant sizes or anything like that. They just
they're now current rather than being obsolete. Right.
Because the old one, like I can't do things on the old TV. There's nothing wrong with the old TV. When I sold that other TV, the guy's like, "There's nothing wrong with that," and I go, "I mean, not that
it's just old.
It's old, but it works." And he goes, "Wow!" And he sent me a message afterwards. Man, this is great. And I go, "Yeah, it's just
it's just time to move on." Yep. Yeah.
So anything like that.
Big purchases for me. I think the coolest thing for me is I didn't really buy anything notable except starting in 2020, like everybody else, I started digging through my old baseball cards and stuff. And found a few of them. I've got a bunch of neat stuff that I probably would never sell, but I found 5 cards that I was willing to sell, and I sent them in, got them graded, and sold them to a local card shop.
What's that process like, getting them graded?
I lucked out because everybody in the world did that in 2020. So I got to give Riddle credit. He sent me a text. He's like, "Hey man, you better dig through your Griffey stuff right now because it's skyrocketing."
Wow.
So
which Riddle? Brian or
Brian? Yeah. And then he put me in touch with his brother.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And we were talking about it. And so you package up your cards, you fill out a little form, and you send them off. Mine took, she was probably 6 months to get graded, and I got in just under the wire where they stopped even accepting stuff because they were just getting flooded.
Wow.
So my stuff came back, and I mean, if the grading had been perfect, I mean, geez, I could have paid my house off. I mean, like if those things if they had graded perfect, but they graded well enough that I didn't have any interest in just selling them. I just wanted to get sort of paid back for all the 30 years I've been hauling them around, and I wanted to store that in something. What's that?
Did it pay out?
Oh yeah. Well, and so what I did is I took it and I put that in sort of that collectible investment into something that I can enjoy currently, because baseball cards I don't enjoy. They sit in a box. I don't look at them. So I bought a watch.
Oh, okay.
I'm not an extravagant watch person. I haven't worn a watch most of my life, but I bought a cool watch that I like with that money, and so it's kind of a cool new way to take that collectible value and collect it in some other form. So that was my biggest purchase, because I would have never.
Yeah, you could use a watch a lot more than you could use a card sitting in a box.
But more than that, it isn't even that I can. I mean, it's certainly that I use it and I enjoy it more than a card in a box. But also, I would have never spent that kind of money on a watch because I'm not a jewelry person or whatever. But I saw it as sort of trading one collectible for another. So that's why it was a big purchase, because I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. And it's cool. I mean, I wear it all the time. So that's great. It's been a fun way to sort of trade pieces of cardboard that I hauled around for 30 years.
Best home improvements, Lee.
Fuck, I'm tired of doing home improvements.
I know you have a lot of them. Isn't that like your main thing now?
The biggest thing is my lawn, because that's a several-year project, but like we expanded the size of our property. And so I have a big lawn that if I'm really moving, I have a not a riding lawnmower, but a self-propelled lawnmower. And if I really haul ass on that thing, I can get done in just over an hour. I mean, it's a pretty substantial lawn. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of everything to do with our house. I'm ready for a condo. I'm so ready. Except the condos, you get HOAs and shit, like what you're dealing with. So
cutting down my trees.
Cutting down the trees, and then they tell you got to put a new like, hey, it's gonna suck no matter what. But I'm sick of mowing my lawn. I'm so sick of it. Yeah,
I'm in the process right now of putting in artificial turf, and it's gonna be awesome. So maybe that'll be my 2000.
That's gonna be rad, dude. I love it.
It's gonna look great. But Eric helped me install a ceiling fan.
Nice.
Here, and I got some new stools, and I got a new table for my pod. Is
nice,
much needed. So that was good, and hopefully I can finish the I might be able to finish the yard here in a couple weeks, but it's looking more like 2022. It's going to be completely finished here. But Lee, I know that you have been big on the online kind of like auction stuff. So I'm going to include that with kind of like, best kind of like thrift finds or stuff like that. So what are some of the most interesting things that, and by the way, I got your little, I was a big Dan Marino fan back in the day, and you found a Dan Marino jersey, and I opened up this package, I was like, what is this? And I was like, opening it, I was like, whoa, I didn't even know you bought that.
Well, dude, I saw that and I was like, I knew it was a nice jersey. It doesn't even matter, like sizing. I got it for $12.
I was like, oh, Jesus,
Right. I saw it. I was like, fuck, $12. I'll take a shot on that.
That was great.
But I kind of watch those auctions and mainly just for fun. And by far the coolest one I purchased this year, and it's the dumbest, nerdiest thing. I bought an NFL football, which I don't need because I don't throw. I don't have anyone to throw to or to throw to me.
Yeah.
And I bought an NFL football, but then I watched all the videos on how to condition an NFL football.
Oh no.
Because they don't just take the boxes or the ball out of the box and throw it on the field.
Oh yeah, no.
They do a whole process.
Oh, yep.
So I did the whole thing, man, which is like you rub it with shaving cream, then you buff it with like a brush, and then you oil it, and then you mud it. So I bought the special mud that you get. So like I have a little jar of that, and I mudded it. I did the whole thing, man, and it just sits on my desk, and several times a day I'll just grab that thing and just sort of
so cool.
like rub it and smell it, and like
Is it awesome? Do you like it?
It's awesome, man. It's
awesome.
I can't describe how cool it is. I've had so much fun with this stupid football that has never been thrown. I've never thrown it, and I spent hours. I mean,
we'll have to throw around with you sometime, and then we'll have some new old man problems and hurt ourselves. And
totally. But that's been the most surprising sort of auction find, because I got that ball for like $30 or something, and it's they're like, 100, good 125,
$95.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever.
So,
I don't.
But I didn't need it, and that's been the best one because I found that sort of unexpected joy out of it.
That's
it's
awesome.
Just sitting on my desk, and I grab it, and I'm like, yeah, all right.
I like it.
Yeah, that was definitely my best auction buy.
I found a Sony Hi8 Handycam video camera that worked. I checked it before I left at like a Goodwill for like $7.50. And the reason that I got that, Lee, is because I have a couple of tapes. I only have a couple of tapes with those, they're like the middle ones. Like, so there's the big VHS ones, and there's the Hi8 ones, which I had with, I think Mike Zahn let me borrow his camera. And I went to videotape you and your band in the year 2000. And I was like,
no way.
I would always look at this and I was like, I wonder what that looks like. I don't think I ever watched it. I don't think I've never even seen it. That was like 21 years ago.
Wow.
And hopefully I can digitize that if it lets me, because like some of those old tapes are so old they just stick to each other, and I was like, oh, okay, well, but yeah.
Oh man, that'll be rad. Oh man.
Do you remember that? It was like in the field somewhere. Like.
Oh yeah, and I remember I was trying to describe. So I have a new trainer, and now she's gone, but. I had a new trainer for a brief time, and I was trying to explain some things. We were just talking about music, and I mentioned, oh yeah, I was in a band or whatever, because she played music, and I said, but let's not be kind about my talent. I said, if you've ever seen the movie School of Rock with Jack Black, where he's pretty much the worst player, but he's the one having the most fun jumping off the stage and shit. I said that was pretty much me. Like, I was terrible, and people tried to turn my amp down. And so
were you the guitarist or the bassist?
I was guitar, but there was also, but Matt was the guitar. Like everyone in that band was way, way, way better than me. And they all took it seriously, and I did not. And I had fun, and I jumped around and made an ass of myself. And then afterwards, they'd always say, "We heard some wrong notes coming from you there." And I was like, "Yeah, fuck, it's fun though, right?" And they just kind of scowl at me, and whatever.
Oh, that's so great. So
I'm anxious to see that.
Too.
I want to see how bad it sounds.
I will. You'll be the first one that I contact.
Well, that was good. That was a good purchase then. Great work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. We'll see. It could be the worst. No, for $7.50, it can't. It's not good. It's awesome either way, right? You could.
It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it to take the chance.
You're right. Exactly. I also discovered that there's a new thrift store across the street from me which I didn't know about. And I wandered in there, and it was like, I wandered in there. I was like, oh, this looks like a pile of crap in here. I was like, so I almost turned around. I was like, wait a minute. It has a hallway, and you go down this hallway, and each time you go in, like, there's this long hallway, which I was like, can I go back here? I'm like, back here. And then each room has a giant room full of stuff. So it kept going back and back and back with huge rooms, right? And I was like, whoa. And I found this room. It was all like electronic stuff, or, videotapes and cassettes and albums and, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I saw there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to thumb through some of these old VHS tapes. And I found the original VHS copies of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal because
it sounds like a big deal. And I'm not even a Star Wars person.
I like Star Wars, but I'm not like a Star Wars guy. You know? So, but the reason why I knew that those were a big deal is because I looked at the back, and like it was like 1980, whatever. But anyway, these are before George Lucas went back and ruined those.
Re-edited, totally, yeah.
So they're very collectible. They're very highly collectible. And I was looking them up online. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, whoa, these are worth 99 cents. So
totally.
Yeah,
right.
You don't usually find those in like a Goodwill, but this was like just one of these mom and pop kind of stores.
That's good that you found a thrift store that is that, though, because the internet has kind of ruined all this stuff.
Yep.
Like, it's really hard to find deals in thrift stores because thrift stores know what they have.
Yep. And they'll even the workers, they'll be like, I can pick through a lot of this shit. And,
totally. Yeah, it's pretty hard to find a deal anymore. So if you find a little mom and pop shop that they just throw the stuff out there, that's a gold mine.
Exactly. Some notable people who passed away this year. My Uncle Tom died on January 6th. Leanne Rashkow.
Yeah.
Leanne Rashkow from high school. Bobby Vogel. The great Bobby Vogel.
There's so much to say about Bobby Vogel. I don't even know where to start.
We can talk about this one another day.
Yeah.
And then this one, these ones are really terrible. Top Shelf, Ethan, and Murr all lost their fathers this year.
Yeah, within short time period. Yeah, they've all. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing for me is, there are plenty of deaths, sort of famous deaths or whatever. But I mean, going back to like Leanne, I didn't know her very well, but I knew her a little bit. Right. And she's our age. And so there's that connection where you start seeing people in middle age get taken. You're like, fuck, okay, yeah, that can happen. Like, it doesn't happen very often up until middle age, and now it creeps in. But we're definitely at the age now where kind of everybody's parents are at that age, and it's really starting to show. And, I try to approach it with just gratitude. I see people who are losing their parents. I've had nothing but great times with my parents, and they're still around and they're still doing well. So as sad as I am for those guys, every time it happens now, I'm just super grateful. I'm super grateful that I can hang out with my parents still. That's kind of like what I've had conversations with you too. And I'm like, one of the most interesting kind of like ideas that I had for this podcast is like, well, I want to preserve people that will never get the chance to preserve, like, their story or whatever. Right. And I was like, oh my God, my grandpa. I have a grandpa that's still, some of my friends don't have, even their fathers that are still around. I mean, think of the stories that a grandparent would have from back in the day. And I'm terribly, sorry that all my friends are, it's one of those things, man. We're getting old, And I hope that people have the perspective, every day is another chance to sort of find that relationship that you can have with your parents. And I understand everybody has different stuff going on. Sure. But I've been very lucky. All of us have had periods in our lives where we didn't get along with our parents. It would be so tragic to sort of be in that moment and then have them pass. So that's all I hope for sort of everybody, Ethan and Toppy and Murr, is that they got to that point with their parents where,
I'm sure if Ethan's dad died when he was, in high school, it would have been a
completely different thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's just what I hope, because I've been lucky enough. I've been lucky enough to sort of come through the other side and say, hey, I have a really great relationship with my parents. And
I'm hosting podcasts with my dad.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's tragic. I hate it, but that's part of life. And it, every time I see it, it helps me get more grateful. So I guess for that, I'm appreciative.
Exactly. Moving on to the craziest thing that I witnessed on the internet. I don't know that could, geez, come on. It could be like a million things. But a couple of weeks ago, someone posted, or I think it was one of the news stations. They posted this car that got stuck underneath a semi.
Oh, I saw that. That was right near me. Yeah. No, that was near my house. And it doesn't surprise me at all.
The semi's like going and look, I'm like, does this guy not use his mirrors? How does he not see a car?
You haven't driven out. That's 8094. That's the freeway that I drive on to go to the airport. That's where I'm not shitting you. That is not surprising at all.
And the person's like, hello, like,
yeah, not surprising. If you ever drove that road, that is
unreal.
Wild West. And I consider myself a driver. I'm comfortable in fast. I'm comfortable in a little bit chaotic. It is fucking insane. That freeway is insane. It is a free-for-all. So when I saw that, I was not shocked at all to hear that it was that freeway.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Did you, I'm sure you saw crazy. I mean, look, it's the craziest thing on the internet. That could be a whole podcast in itself. So whatever. But anyway,
I think the craziest thing I saw on the internet continually, and this started largely in 2020, people that I didn't think were crazy. People saying shit that makes no goddamn sense. That's what I keep seeing on the internet, is people just seeing things happen objectively and then just sort of shaking their head and saying, but that didn't happen. That's the craziest thing I've seen on the internet, is the continued nuttiness of people. They're all nutty.
They're
all nutty.
I'm sure that's not going to end here.
Right.
I'm sure that's not going to end. Did you take any memorable road trips this year, Lee? Any?
No, I mean, we didn't travel that much. We did a few little trips here and there, but 2021 was largely stick around at home and handle myself.
Gotcha.
What about you? Did you go?
I did that road trip, that day trip to the Vulture City ghost town, which was pretty cool.
That sounds rad.
Yeah,
I remember seeing your pictures.
Yeah, it was like, wow, this is pretty cool. But I think that and it happened. It's weird, like, to me, that a gold rush happened in the middle of the desert. Like, I mean, we're really far out in the middle of the desert out here, and there was like, how did they even discover something like this?
Right.
I'm confused.
I will say, so this was technically last year, but I had that when we went and visited Jerome, Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome.
Because it's hard to get out there now.
Right.
Like, there's nothing out there now. And then you think, well, 150 years ago, these guys were up here building crazy cable cars and digging down into the earth and stuff. It's amazing. And I mean, the gold sort of answers itself, that it's wherever they found it.
But at least Jerome looks cool when you're even up in the like mountain and everything. Like, this place is like, how did they even find, like, you drive forever like out in the middle of nowhere, and we're on the desert, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't.
Right. Well, that's a little bit like I
get it if you're like, the old California, like,
right.
Gold Rush and stuff like that. I get that, but we're in the middle of the desert. Like, I don't know.
There's some interesting, it's just different economy though. Like, there's a place near where we hunt, and where we hunt is you pretty much can't get there unless you take an airplane. Like, you could technically raft there, but you can't. There are no roads. You can't get there unless you hiked over 20 miles of mountains or something. And right down where we hunt is an abandoned orchard. There was a guy that lived there, and the area is named after this guy because he was there kind of in the turn of the century. And he had an orchard, and he had a little thing there, and he supplied stuff to the miners, and they all came through by boat. Now, in today's world, it is so inaccessible that you have to hire a bush plane to get there. But he lived back there, and he had enough commerce. It's just weird how economy works, because it doesn't make any sense now. He couldn't do anything back there now, but back then, I guess the river was enough. People floated by, and he sold them apples or whatever. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Some of these are kind of like, I'm just going to skip over a couple of these here. How about I'm just going to point out a couple of these. Best out of the blue gifts. So I mentioned the Dan Marino jersey that I didn't even know that you bought. So that was like just last week or something like that. John Racich with the logo here.
Yeah, nice.
I like it. Awesome. It's like a metal piece that he sent. It's pretty awesome.
Nice. That's rad.
Yeah. And Jen made me a big banner of my show. It's hanging over there. And that was kind of cool with little stickers. Some merch, Yeah. So those are just kind of
that's
things
pretty rad. I love that. I'm terrible at all that, so I respect people who are good at it.
Me too. It's all right, thanks.
I'm terrible at it. So yes, I'm glad you have good friends who sent you that shit.
I had a dream here. I'm just gonna skip over. I had a lot of dreams this year for some reason. Tons of dreams, and each one was weirder than the next. I think I sent you some of these. I was like, and you wake up and you're like, what? What are you? Yeah. What are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know.
I never remember my dreams, or I'll remember little tiny snippets.
Yeah. Mine are like movies. Like they're like full on. Maybe that's like what like directors and like writers like. I mean, I don't know.
There's something to it. Like Jewel has those too, where she can say, "Oh, I had a dream," and here are all the things that happened in the dream, and here's what that person was wearing and whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I dreamt something. I think there's a giraffe, and that's it. Like that's all that I get. Nothing else. It's all gone. So I'm envious of people who can dream and wake up and be like, "Whoa, that was cool. I remember I saw this and this and this and this and met that person and said these things." And you're definitely one of those people who can sort of recount what happened. But I'm not an expert on analyzing dreams or anything like that. But there has to be something to it. But best compliment of the year was probably from Troy Larson, this guy we went to high school with. His dad. People were contacting me to upload this video that he made of our high school football team. I remember this. Yeah. And
I've had it for years, and I didn't know that I was one of the few people that still had this. Like, it's like gone. Like people don't even have it. Like I remember them selling these like for I don't know, like $10 or something like that. Yeah. And basically they just, made copies, and then here you go. And they handed them out. And I was like, wait a minute, the guy that made it doesn't even have the video? Right. Like, what is that? That's even possible. So anyway, people were like, you got to post that. And I was like, all right. It took forever because I had to, it took a long time to digitize that sucker. And then, then I was getting flagged for music and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I finally put it up. And that guy, boy, man, he's like, he brought him to tears, I guess. He was like, dude, I haven't seen this in you don't even know how long. And he's the one that filmed all of it and put it all together and all that good stuff. And he's like, now my kids and grandkids can watch it. And
awesome.
So I was like, wow. I was like, that's pretty cool. That I was able to do that.
And you never know what's going to connect with people. You know, I mean, like that's obviously super important to him. And like you said, who knew that this dude wouldn't even have it or that it would be important? Yeah. I love that. I love it.
It's pretty cool. I mean, like there's over the years, I would make like I'll make like a little video clip of like, some, I was like, just post the whole thing for everyone. It's like 2.5 hours or something like that. Right. But whatever. Notable pet peeve. There's a notable pet peeve that I've heard a couple people say this, and really it's kind of like a George Carlin kind of moment for me. When people ask someone how they're doing and they reply with, I've never felt better. I've never felt better.
Yeah.
I was like, that is complete bullshit.
That's horse shit. Because you are older today than you were yesterday. So you're lying right now.
I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, wait. You felt better when you were 10 years old. You know why? Right. You know why? Because you didn't complain about anything. You felt great.
You didn't have any bills. Fantastic. Your body worked the way it was supposed to work.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh God. Being 10. Oh,
man, that's
it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just something people say, but
I can be on board with that. But my pet peeve, the top one is now and has always been and will probably forever be, how can people do an activity at least an hour a day, every day of their entire lives, and get worse at it? Everyone is worse at driving. And what do we do more than drive every day? I mean, I won't say every single day, but I bet if you took every American, we drive an hour a day, maybe half hour a day.
Right.
You would think over the years you would get better, not worse.
Unless you're 95 years old.
Yeah, look, there's a diminishing return at some point, and I'll make room for that. But like from 16 to 60, you ought to be getting better.
That's true.
Every time you do it, you ought to be getting better, or at least not worse.
That's true. I'm fully on board with that, man. Yeah. I've never understood that when people get worse at something than.
Well, it's because they don't care. And that's the thing is like if you took the time to practice something else and you were trying to practice it, you would maintain your skill or improve your skill. But people don't want to drive. They don't want. This is why like self-driving cars to me are ridiculous, because why the fuck would anyone not want to drive? But the real answer is nobody wants to drive except for like 1 or 2% of us. Like I love driving. I want to keep driving. Everyone else wants to zone out. They want to be doing something else. So that's the answer is they're not practicing. They're
in the Jetsons. Did they drive, or were those kind of like pods that they got in where they took them to places?
I feel like they drove them, but they were all on that same little air highway, little thing. So.
Okay, yeah, so that's great. I mean, obviously that's
my pet peeve forever.
That's an ongoing one too. That'll never.
Yeah.
That'll never improve.
Yeah.
By the way, you brought this up a while ago too. I love that you've brought this one up over the years. Now I hear everybody say it, including myself. Many times I say this more than probably anybody I know, but the word literally.
Yes. Yeah.
Like literally, someone goes. It's a. They said it literally just this morning. They said it, and I go. I'm like, they used that incorrectly. They use that incorrectly. And I'm like, that's Lee. That's Lee right there, man.
Well, but my problem with that isn't that people use it incorrectly, because I can generally discern the context of it, right? From what people are saying. My problem is that we have now used it incorrectly so much that the actual definition has changed to mean both things. Yes. And if the two things didn't mean the exact opposite of each other, I'm also fine with it. But if you're saying that this means that it happened in actuality instead of a figurative thing, and you're saying it happened in a figurative manner, you remove all meaning. Because now, like, think if somebody looks back on a history book and it says, I don't know, the Nazis literally put people in gas chambers. Well, now you don't know if they actually did that.
Right.
Because that could mean the same as they figuratively did. And you're like, oh, that would be terrible if they really did that. Well, they did. So, but now we don't have a word for it. So
I think
that's the part that bothers me. It isn't that people say it or even that they use it incorrectly. It's that it has been so ubiquitously misused that now it doesn't have a meaning. We don't know what it literally means.
More than anybody I've known in like big, the big scheme of things. He was like one of the biggest offenders, and you're like, it bugs the shit out of me.
It just, like I said, I just want it to mean what it means. And if like words change, meanings change. But when they mean the exact opposite of the thing that they meant before, it's problematic and it bothers me. Right. So, yeah.
All right. So the last one I have on here for the personal moments here. The funniest moment of this year, it was pretty damn funny. I was going to say maybe not the funniest, like, haha, but I was laughing pretty hard at it. So I hosted the draft party this year, and the audio was so bad on some of the people, like, it wasn't as funny for Toppy and his fiance.
Right.
Because they kept cutting out so much. Right. They kept dressing up. It was pretty funny in that way. But I wanted it to I wanted to be fully safe and not think about anything but the draft. So Jen was going to test everybody before they came into the house.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So Steve has never been here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And Steve has never met Jen. And Jen was going to be the testing person. So Steve goes, "Hey, man, I think I'm here. I'm not sure." And I'm sitting there trying to get everything ready and stuff like that. And I go, "Here's a picture. Here's Steve." And she's like, "Okay." So she goes out there and she goes, "Hi, nice to meet you. Okay, let me ask you." And Steve goes, "Oh, okay." So she's like, and Steve comes in and he goes, "Yeah, I just got violated out in the parking lot." Oh God, Steve was like, the whole time he was just like basically talking about how he got, like, raped up.
I mean, of all the people that probably, marginally expected that to happen when he showed up at your house, maybe Steve.
It was so great. But yeah, so I thought that was a pretty hilarious. Like Steve's like, and then they like kind of like introduced him. Yeah, I'm Jen. How you doing? Yeah, I'm Steve. Wow. Okay. Let's get this party started.
Nice.
So I don't know if you have like a moment that stuck out as far as funny. You're like, no, nothing funny happened.
Not really. I mean, honestly, this year was so weird because we were just so buried in work. I can't believe we're at the end of it. I really can't believe we're at the end of 2021, and just a bunch of stuff happened with everything else. I'm sure there were moments that were just fall down funny, but they're a blur. They're just a blur.
I hear you, man.
Honestly, I feel like I went outside January 1st with my backpack, which I did, and that was like 3 weeks ago. That's what it feels like. Just 2021 just is gone.
All right. Well, that just leads us into the top stories, the top news stories of 2021. So we're gonna cover both news and entertainment. And look, I'm not a political show, but you can't not bring up some of the stuff that happened.
Kind of got to talk about some of it. Yeah.
So first up, the insurrection on January 6th. So the storming of the Capitol. I can't believe this really still happened. I still remember it like happening in like real time, and it was like messaging everybody, and I was like, is this really happening? Like, wow. Like, I still can't believe I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that and I've heard other shows like pretty much downplaying that, like, they're just idiots. I'm like, but it's different. I mean, this is a very different thing that happened. Lee, what are your thoughts on that day?
Well, yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. And a couple things popped in my head when it was happening and sort of since. One, the government is really terrible at doing all the things they do. And that was on display because we think that we're this impenetrable sort of fortress. We think about like the White House as like having anti-aircraft missiles on the roof and nobody could ever get into it and whatever. Yeah. And then every once in a while, a dude with no shirt runs in there with a pocket knife and he makes it into the inner corridor.
Yeah.
And this thing we saw coming a long way off. Anybody who didn't see this thing coming wasn't paying attention. And then they just fucking walked in the door.
I mean, we heard about this for weeks, right? I mean, they were like,
it was planned. It was everywhere. They said, we're going to stop the steal. We're going to go there. We're going to do this thing.
And backing up real quick here, just from what you said, because you just reminded me, growing up, we always thought, like, oh, yeah, you want to get shot? Jump the fence of the White House, start running. Yeah.
And all of us go, that's what should happen. That there are some lines you can't cross.
Right. And yeah, everyone kind of thinks that too. You're like, oh yeah, I mean, you'll get good way to, death by cop or whatever,
right.
Like,
suicide by cop. Right. But that's the thing is, so that was the first part of my sort of analysis of that was, how can anyone trust that the government is good at doing anything right now? But also, they should have shot every last motherfucking one of them. Anybody who decides to go after the government in that capacity, that blatantly, there ought to have been a final line of just National Guard troops who say, take one more step, and this is it.
I mean, these are grown adults. They weren't like children.
Yeah. And it was an organized thing. This was an organized insurrection. I think they were unprepared for how successful they were. I don't think it was planned all the way to the end. I think they planned to cause some chaos. But I don't care. You can't do that. And it's weird for me because I sympathize with the frustration with government. I really do. I'm not a fan of big government. I don't like some of the things. I identify with some of the things that some of those people identify with. But you can't do that. You can't do it that way. And if you do it that way, they should have been mowed down or strung up on yardarms. You can't do that. That's the height of treason, is to show up on the doors of the fucking Capitol and storm it. You can't do that. So, and I sympathize with it. Like I said, I share some of the views that some of those idiots have about the government.
You're more vocal about the government than anybody I know.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of government. I see government largely as a threat if it's left unchecked. I think that the implied force against government is partially what keeps the government from doing even more terrible shit. But if you show up there, you're declaring your intent to secede from our system, and then you are declaring war, and the fight's on. And if that's where those people thought they were, and if that's where the fight that they wanted, okay, I mean, fine, but they should have been met with appropriate force, which is you are now determining that you are not part of our system anymore, and you're actively trying to destroy it the same way any other terrorist or any other insurrectionist would.
Now, how long did it take Trump to call,
did he
call off this?
Did he? I don't think he ever did.
I think he did eventually. Like, he taped a thing to be aired, but it was at that point, it was kind of like he's trickling out.
No, he should have been absolutely convicted in the Senate.
I was just gonna say, as a result of this, Trump is banned from pretty much all of social media. First, Facebook on January 7th, Twitter on January 8th, YouTube on January 13th, and he also becomes the first president to be impeached twice. So that's how the year started, Lee.
Right.
That's how it started. So, yeah.
It did improve from that, honestly, and I'm no fan of Biden. I think Biden is an empty suit, and I don't think he can put a sentence together. But it got better. I mean, having Biden is better than Trump, and he's fucking up the economy. He's messing up a whole bunch of shit. It's still better than having a Russian asset insurrectionist commander-in-chief. And that's what we had.
There's a couple of things that, the war in Afghanistan finally ended, which that part was good, but leaving, not so good.
It was never going to end any other way. Anybody who's ever read a history book, I mean, I think I sent you guys, it was famous. I didn't do anything, but one journalist took a picture of a helicopter, coming out of the Kabul embassy, and you could just overlay it with the picture of the helicopter at the Saigon
pictures,
embassy.
Man, they were just awful seeing that.
That's the only way that it ever could have ended. That was a surrender, no matter how you want to phrase it. It wasn't a drawdown. It was a surrender. It was a U.S. surrender, and we finally admitted that we have to get out of there, and that's what happens in a surrender. Like
bodies in the wheels of the
plane. Yeah. It was awful. It's just terrible.
Awful.
But that's how those things end. That's how it ends when you lose a war. You leave, and all the people who believed in you and all the people who tried to help you get fucked. And I don't know why anybody the damage from all of this stuff is I don't know why anybody wants to support the U.S. anymore, believing that the U.S. will stand by them, because we have enough of a history now of showing that we're just going to abandon you. And we had to leave Afghanistan, but we never should have been there in the first place, aside from maybe dropping some bombs to see if we could hit, bin Laden. But I don't know. Yeah, that whole thing, I'm just happy it's over. I'm happy we're out of fucking Afghanistan.
And then there was the shipping crisis of this year. I can't believe the pictures of all those giant ships just sitting out there floating for months and months. It's pretty crazy to see. I don't think I've ever seen, I definitely haven't seen that, because I don't think it's ever happened with that much buildup out in the ocean with that much stuff. And I think they finally are starting to get a hold of it. But I mean, we're talking about, what is the date? It's
it's the end of 2020. It's been a year. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's weird that I was so wrong on the economic impact of the pandemic. I was so wrong. I sold stock. I was ready to hunker down. I thought it was 2008 again, and I was completely wrong. Everybody just started spending all their money and buying everything. And in a world where we were trying to get a trade sort of imbalance fixed with China, we just started buying all of China, everything, to the point that we can't even get the containers in. I don't know. That's a weird thing.
People were saving their money, I guess, all last year, right? I think there was stuff on Amazon still.
Well, I think there's also a bit of end of the world mentality to it. Why would I save money? We might all die.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But also, with my experience, albeit on a very low level, with unions and how they operate, I think there's a significant portion of this that was probably caused by some corruption in our systems. I don't think that the supply chain is as broken as they say. I think that there were opportunities for people to step in between it, and they did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
But
there you go.
Just that's conspiracy theory right there.
There you go. There you go.
Unions are largely responsible for some of this.
The one, good thing that happened, in my opinion, was that stupid, the bipartisan infrastructure bill was finally passed, which that should have been a no-brainer. But again, the Democrats were like, we want this in there. And I was like, dude, can you focus on the big picture of what this is? I mean, it's been trying to I think Obama wanted to get that done. Trump wanted to get that done. And I think Biden's finally like, look, I want to make this like number one other than COVID or whatever. But
right.
That's another thing. COVID's not going away. But yeah, that finally happened. We need or the bridges and roads. Every single person uses those, so that should be a no-brainer. Get those taken care of.
And our power grid, we are. If you want to do like homeland security shit, make sure that we are safe and sovereign as a nation. We need to secure our power grid.
Yeah.
Like now, it's pretty easy to turn off large chunks of that.
Yeah, and that keeps happening too, right? Like,
yeah.
People like,
it's gonna. Yeah, we have an antiquated system that hasn't been updated. And nobody wants to spend the money. And I hate big government. I don't want to see government spend money on this. But they are the ones that have to do this. That's what the federal government is for this
right,
stuff.
That's what you always used to preach. You're like, look,
they need, right.
You're there for anything. This is
national infrastructure.
Right.
Do that.
Yeah.
But also, as always, it gets corrupted because people want to fit their other stupid horse shit into it. And that's why it gets, all these other little things in there that would never pass if it was a one-page bill. If somebody said, hey, I want to pass this bill with this thing, they would get laughed out of the chamber. They can slide it into page 1164 of the infrastructure bill, and there's no choice but to pass it. And that's how a lot of our laws get passed, is just buried in these deep, huge volumes of laws that make sense.
The COVID variant. I'm just so tired of it too, man. It's just like the only thing that I wanted to point out was at the very beginning, because I take notes. I have like a section of notes that I take down, that I just write down every month. That I'll just, if something happens, I think the craziest thing, the craziest stat that I wrote down from this entire year was I wrote down that in January I noted that 40,000 people have now died from COVID. 40,000. Yeah.
And now it's like 800,000.
It's like almost 810,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yep. So it's not going away. Protect yourself.
That's the thing and that's the thing for me is I'm here at our friends Mike and Heather's house, and Heather was an ICU nurse in the hospital that received the first COVID patient.
No way, that's crazy.
She's in the Frontline documentary on COVID. So she has been in it from the start, and she is now no longer in the ICU because she's just fucking had enough. And in her words, she's tired of seeing people die who don't have to die, because they could have gotten vaccinated. They could have taken some measure. And she says that all the people who are in the hospital dying are unvaccinated, and they didn't have to be. So there's that. But also, I'm sick of the government trying to mandate things that aren't going to work. So it's irrelevant whether we ought to be doing something as a society. They can't make people do it. And at this point, I'm ready for them to just say, here's the information. This is all that we have. Now go. Protect yourselves, protect the people you care about, because nobody's going to do it for you. And so I'm really, really tired of hearing about government mandates and government closures, not because I'm necessarily against the reason that they're doing them. I'm behind, they're not going to work. It's not going to work. People aren't going to do it. So we need to stop doing that. We need to start putting resources into hospitals and into places that are going to get affected by this thing no matter what. Or we need to start saying, we're not going to let you into a hospital if you're not vaccinated, which is bullshit. You can't do that. I mean, you can't, but for me, I don't know. I'm over this whole thing. I don't care what variant it is. I don't give a fuck who's getting sick, who isn't. I handled myself. I handled my family. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I'm an asset, not a liability, and everybody else can fuck off. And including the government. I push back a little bit against, hey, show me a medical record to go to a football game. Fuck you. I don't want to do that. Like, I shouldn't have to do that. Now, they're a private company. They have a right to say that. Like, hey, we want to allow people or not.
That's what my argument always was.
But then the argument should also be, I'm a private place. I choose not to have that. And we are not going to close our doors, and we're not going to have masks. We're not, as long as it's communicated, that should also be okay. And it isn't. So it has to be either way. You have to either say you're a private company and you can say, show us that in order to be let in, or you have to allow.
But the argument, remember when they, years ago, when I think it was a cake place, wanted to turn down a gay couple for not making a cake. And the argument was, on the right, was it's their business. They can do whatever they want. And I'm like, that's right. That is right. But what are the repercussions of that? Now you have the bad press of you hate gay people.
Right.
So like, that's kind of like the same thing with like, the
markets will handle most of this. The markets will handle most of this. The government doesn't need to tell people, don't go into that place because there's smokers in there. Put a sign on the door that says this is a 21 and over establishment that allows smoking. Enter at your own risk. That's what it ought to be, because people are going to do it anyway. It is not up to the government to tell people you must do this or you must not in a business, so long as you're not breaking the law. And I push back a little bit when we pass laws, and especially under emergency circumstances, that there's no due process in arriving at that law that says, here are things that we're deciding for you. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I had a little bit more leash for it because it was brand new. Hey, let's play it safe. But I don't think the government should be able to tell businesses you must do this thing if they're not also willing to allow them to do this other thing.
Do you remember when, this is funny because we were all of us, me, you, Ryan, Kevin, I think we were all on the argument back in the day when the bars were flirting with the idea of,
this is the same argument for me.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's no. Like,
yeah,
we're in a bar. We're already doing bad stuff. We're drinking, we're drunk, blah, blah, blah.
By very nature, everyone who walks in the door is a consenting aged adult.
Yeah.
The risk is clear. And that's the thing. You have to communicate the risk. You have to give them the information and say, hey, look, it's clear with all of our scientific knowledge that smoke-filled environments are risky for you. You have to give people the information. You can't say smoking is fine. It's not going to hurt you. Like, you can't put up a sign that says, hey, COVID is fine. You'll be just fine. But you can put up a sign that says, hey, with all the information we have, this thing may hurt or kill you. Now, do you want to come in? And if you say as a consenting age adult, yep, I do. That's freedom. That's risk.
I will say, we were all against that. But then the next morning when you'd wake up, you wouldn't have that double hangover with that film.
I love it. I love it. The bars are smoke free, but it ought to be my choice. Right. I love it because I'm not a smoker.
Right. But those poor smokers, they kept shoving them out. They're like, you have to be outside. So like in Seattle, here it would have been okay. Like you go outside, you're like, oh, it's beautiful outside. Like in Seattle, you shove them out in the rain or the snow, and then you had to push them out towards the corner. Like, oh, now you're too close to the front door. People like you smoke when they're walking in. Go to the corner and like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I feel like I do have a deadly disease now. Like,
Right. Well, that's the thing. I just, that's my line for what the government ought to be doing is communicating risk, communicating information, and then saying, be cool. Yeah. Try not to be a dick about this. And honestly, I think they would have had a better response from people if I think people would have responded better, a higher vaccination rate, a higher compliance rate if they hadn't mandated it. I think that things work better that way than the other way, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, lots of people didn't wear seatbelts until they got a ticket for not wearing them. So
there you go.
I'm not saying I'm right, but it just, I would prefer that the government just communicate the risk, communicate the information, and let people be people.
I have a question for you, Lee. Which person do you think is currently hated more within their own party? Senator Joe Manchin by the Democrats or Congressman Liz Cheney by the Republicans?
Fuck. I mean, it's humorous to watch because humorous and sad because Liz Cheney obviously got excommunicated from her party for, being a decent human. And all the Democrats, everybody on that
yeah.
side, just how dare you throw this person out for that just because they're, against your agenda and this, and it was shouting from the left that how dare the Republicans do this.
Yep.
Until it's their guy.
Right.
And now it's their guy. And I think both of those are for the same reason. They're not part of the gang. They're choosing to deviate from the gang politics. I like both of those people for that reason. I don't know much about Joe Manchin.
Yeah. No, well, Joe Manchin, I think Joe Manchin's more like kind of like almost like more old school. Like that's how it used to work. You're like, look, I don't think this is right for
the country, the people.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold out. And, it frustrates, the progressives. Yeah. But
it's the gang. It's the gang thing. Like what you just asked is basically what I feel about gangs turning on their own when the gang member wants to leave, because it's blood in, blood out, and nobody leaves alive. That's how it is in politics right now. And I think one of the things we need to do in politics is change that. No gang colors. I think we should ban display or affiliation of colors in Congress. We do it in prisons, for fuck's sake. We can't do it in Congress and say, look, you can have your beliefs and you can even align with other people. You can't wear your fucking blue tie every day. I don't know how to do that. I'm not saying it's practical. I'm just saying sort of the ethos of it is, if you go to prison, you're not actively allowed to participate in the gang. They still do, but you're not, but they try to suppress it. I think we ought to be doing that in government. But whatever.
Yeah. I had, I don't want to get too far into this here, but the most covered verdict of the year was the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict.
Yeah.
And this one was, it's interesting because if you go by just the law, the current laws, it was the correct verdict, right?
Yeah.
If you go by straight the laws, not your feelings or not what you know what I mean? And that's why I think that was so polarizing, or more like what was so what the discussions were all fired up about. And I think I heard it was Chris Christie say, look, he's the one that really pointed it out. He goes, look, I think what people are really upset about are their feelings about what happened, which is valid.
Yeah.
If you don't like the laws, change the law.
Change the law. Exactly. That's how I feel about all of this. Is Kyle Rittenhouse is a fucking moron who had no business being down there. None whatsoever. Right. He shouldn't have been holding a weapon. He caused this situation to happen by being there, right? Except I'm not going to he was a victim as much as he was being attacked, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, he caused it. But he had no business being down there. And I think most of the people who are down there doing this shit are doing it to incite. They're doing it to cause. Well,
he said he went there to protect the business or whatever, but
there's some validity to that idea, right? Like, hey, I don't like it when people are burning shit down, and if it was happening in my town, maybe I go down there and hang out, but I don't stand there with a fucking rifle and body armor slung over my I don't know. I reject this idea that open carrying rifles is a good thing. And I know there's even an argument that says we want to normalize this so that people aren't afraid of guns. I reject that entirely and say, no, guns are a tool for when things go horribly, horribly wrong. And guys like Kyle Rittenhouse, who have no business being down there, are sort of the forefront of what happens when you send people into that environment acting like assholes. And
how do you feel about him as a hero now?
Oh, fuck him. He's not a hero. He's a fucking retarded 17-year-old kid who had no business being down there. But as far as I could tell from the evidence, he was not guilty of murder. He was defending himself with
technically
by
the law,
with probably appropriate force, but with a little bit of nuance in that thought. He didn't have to fucking be there. So he's not a hero. He's not a fucking. I hate that. I hate that we've turned dumb people into heroes simply because the outcome ended up a certain way. You're not a hero for going down there and doing that. I don't know.
All right, let's move on to some more dumbasses.
Yeah.
So here's a couple of notable ones, and we're trying to be I'm trying to be as even as I can with everything here. The Cuomo brothers. We have New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was taken down after allegations that he sexually assaulted 11 women. And then his brother, Chris Cuomo, who's on CNN, tries to help out his brother, which he's trying to help his brother, I guess. But he sent texts that revealed that he sought out to use his connections in the press to help prepare the governor's team as the accusers started to make their stories public. So CNN fires him. So both the Cuomos they're gone.
That's a mix. That's a mix for me because like I do want victims to be able to come forward, and I want there to be justice for victims, and there should be a mechanism for that to happen. And for forever that was suppressed. Like that's what this is sort of a correction from we used to ignore people and say you're full of shit, and powerful people
you don't get 11 people coming out wanting to,
right. And I make room for, hey, it's weird when they come out in clusters, like there's some sort of organization to it, whatever. But also I think powerful people have always been protected, and that protection has sort of been eroded by social media and by some other things. And that's a good thing. But also this part where if you are near someone who does something wrong, and you don't even necessarily have to help them. It's not like you handed them the gas can and said, I hope you do wise things with these, and then they light a building on fire. You could just be near them. And if you aren't actively trying to tackle them, you're now as guilty as them. I reject that.
I was like, oh man, like Chris Cuomo's still on CNN.
Yeah.
Because like when all that stuff went down, I was like,
it is a little humorous to see.
How are they going to get him out of there?
I do think it's a little humorous to see, because this cancel, I don't like the nickname cancel culture, but it is true that like people are looking for ways.
By the way, it's on both sides.
It is. No, well, that's what I was going to say. It's kind of humorous to see it start cannibalizing the side that used it, that weaponized it in the first place. Because that's what happens. If you start saying, if you make one mistake, you're done. Everybody makes a mistake, and if they're going to start using that policy, it's going to land on them too. So I don't know, but whatever. I mean,
and then we have Senator Ted Cruz, who during a huge winter storm in February, the power goes out, and his fellow Texans across the state are freezing to death in many cases. And Cruz, he decides this is a great time to take a vacation to Cancun. So he ditches out on his people, and but that was not good. People taking pictures of him at the airport, like sending all these like messages and everything, and then he immediately flies back. He's like, oh, what? I was just checking out my kids or something. I don't know what I
love it. I love that because look, people, that's what politicians generally are. There are a few exceptions where people actually care, but that's what politicians are. They don't care about you. They don't care if you're dying. They care that they are getting further in their lives by the chosen career path. And I love it when politicians blatantly display that. And he did. He's like, why the fuck would I care about that? I got a vacation planned. It's rad. And then eventually he's like, oh shit, they caught me. I better go back.
I better get I better get back on the first flight back.
Right. But that's what politicians are. And until we get away from career politicians, and that's going to be what we get.
You love politicians, Lee.
I fucking, yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually like people who stand up and try to help, and politicians often do. I think making it a career requires that you get enriched by it. If you follow, all of us want to get into a career and get better every year than we did the year before. If you're doing that in politics, it means you're enriching yourself somehow.
All right, enough politics.
Anyway.
Enough politics.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah.
We'll kind of move into more entertainment kind of deal here. So the Billionaire space race. That was this year, man. I mean, it's been happening for years, but they finally did it. We had Richard Branson travels to space on July 11th.
Yep.
And that was quickly followed, really quickly, by Jeff Bezos, who traveled to space on July 20th. And then William Shatner became the oldest the oldest guy to ever travel to space at the age of 90 on October 13th. So what do you think of all the this space race stuff here.
I love it. I love it.
Right?
This shows how private industry is so much more powerful than sort of entrenched large industry and government. Because Boeing, keep in mind, Boeing was trying to keep up in this race too.
Yeah.
And like they tried to launch one rocket and somebody set the clock wrong. Literally, it's that bad. They've tried. So Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who are not space engineers,
right,
managed to do it faster and better than Boeing and the U.S. government. I love that. I love that innovation.
This space stuff is like pretty cool, man.
It is, and
it's weird too. Just, like watching these like the spaceships that like go up and then they go down. Like,
right?
Like, what? Wow, it's crazy.
And I just I love the ambition. It's largely useless in terms of like a human achievement as far as like what we're going to get out of it. It would be better if people were working on cold fusion or some other better desalinization process. But I don't care because this is awesome. I love
Captain
to see this.
Kirk is literally, am I using that right? Literally a real astronaut now.
Yeah, he literally went in space. Yes, yeah. Yep. All right, I love it. I don't know. I think it's rad. And people who are shitting on those guys for doing it, fuck yourself. Go back to work. Yeah. Earn $100 billion and then see what you would do.
All right, the biggest conspiracy. Oh shoot, I'm going back to politics here. Dang it.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, we're gonna dip back in real quick here, but the biggest conspiracy theory of this year. All right, Biden never won the election, and
people
Trump will be reinstated into office. Also, JFK Jr. never died, and he will be Trump's vice president when he takes office. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of QAnon followers gathered to the grassy knoll at Daily Plaza on November 2nd, hoping they would witness the great return of JFK Jr.
This fits into that thing that you asked, the wackiest thing I saw on the internet. I see how wacky people are. And there are some really, really nutty people in this world that are just kind of off the tracks. And they believe crazy, nutty shit like that. And I like conspiracies. I like people asking, hey, maybe we should look at this. Let's make sure that this is what we think it is.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes one of these comes true.
I want people to be questioning. I want them to look at it. But this is a display of really true idiocy and how dumb and gullible people really can be. And it also shows we probably...
there's that many people down there right now, like waiting for JFK Jr. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. I hope he shows up. I mean, he's not going to. He died in a plane crash.
Right. Well, this whole thing might be just an illustration that we don't have a functioning mental health care system in this country. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're definitely right.
We definitely don't. But like, no. I think that those are the people that probably would be, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Worst natural disasters of this year. Well, I'm not doing, there's always massive, like, worst natural disasters, but this one stands out and it's like kind of like hits close to home because you're currently recording kind of like just north of Seattle, right?
Correct. Yes.
So now there's snow on the ground as we speak.
There is. It is snowing out there. Yes. Yeah.
So now the biggest natural disaster of the area was a heat wave. Devastated Canada this year in June. And it was huge news in Seattle too, because it actually affected a large part of the Washington area. But the heat was so hot and intense that it ended up killing 569 people in British Columbia in just 5 days. They don't usually get that kind of heat like that hits them. And it actually ended up breaking the all-time record for hottest day in Seattle at 108 degrees. And it killed 112 people in the state of Washington. Pretty crazy. It's a lot of death for heat.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because, I always tell people, I go, look, when it gets hot in Seattle, it's miserable because nobody has air conditioning.
They're not set up for it. Yeah.
I mean, unless you
they better get used to it. It's getting more common.
Yeah. I mean, but like you open up the door and like, it's like hot for a couple days. Okay. And like, why would you want like air conditioning? But yeah, when it is hot like that though, it's like, oh my gosh. Ooh,
right.
Bad.
Yep.
The Angry Travelers This was a big news story for this year. Tons of altercations on numerous flights as people started flying again, because people just started refusing to wear their masks. And the best video of this was that big black guy. Is he black guy? That the flight attendant that took matters into his own hands. Do you remember this guy?
Vaguely.
He literally like duct taped.
Yeah.
The guy to a seat. It was like completely out of control. I think he was like spitting on people or something like that. And he's like, you don't do that to me. You don't start like calling me names and blah, blah, blah. Like,
and it just, I don't know. This is how bad we've gotten at handling sort of people who are out of the lines. I love that the airlines are starting to take things into their own hands and say, nope, you're not fucking doing this. And passengers are getting involved. Like, you can't flip out on an airplane right now without a bunch of people putting you in your place.
People have had it, man.
And it's the start of sort of social violence. And I bring this up as a term. I don't like violence. I don't want people to be violent, but there's a tool. It's a tool for keeping people in line. And we used to have this sort of intermediate between somebody being an asshole and somebody getting shot by the cops.
Yeah.
That's sort of evaporated because there's no place in that continuum for people to intervene until the cops show up. And then the cops run into a person who's never hit a stop sign and they end up shooting them.
Right.
Like, we need to have this where an airplane full of people is like, fuck this dude. You get his legs, I'll get his arms. We're going to tape this fucker to the seat in the bathroom. Like, that's social violence. People willing to stand up and say, we're not waiting for the cops. We're not calling a teacher or a parent or an adult. We're gonna handle this.
You can't. There's no escape. You're in the air, man.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's pretty important to have
the
serene, safe environment. Yeah.
When you're booking a flight, there's a thing that a big giant disclaimer that you have to agree to. Yep. When you book a flight now, you have to agree to it. So it's not like it's whatever happens to you. If you are trying to, fight the law up in the air. Yep. Look, whatever happens to you, that's on you, man. That's on you.
And it's largely pushing back against assholes who have not had anybody push back against them.
Right, sure.
I love it. I love this. I hope it continues. I hope more people get duct taped to fucking airplane seats. And I hope people start beating them up a little bit more. I hope people get beaten for this.
All right. New slang words or phrases for this year. I don't know. I don't know if you started using these, Lee. Probably not. I don't know. Who knows? But, now these have been around for a couple of years, I think, but they've really, the uptick on some of these has. I mean, I hear people use them all the time now. So they're integrated into society quite a bit. So the first of these is fire. So, oh man, this burger's fire. Have you ever hear that people use that, like that term now? It's like basically amazing. It's like, oh, this burger's amazing. How about this one? Slaps.
I haven't heard that one.
That new song, Slaps, man. Slaps.
Whatever.
It's great. Yeah. Here's a good one. Dead. Laughing out loud.
Yeah.
That one. So anyway, and then last and least is let's go Brandon. It's a big saying for this year.
Yeah, I'm fine with all of it. Like, I like that language changes, and I like that people find clever ways to communicate. I think some of them are stupid. I mean, I think "Let's Go Brandon" is a pretty lame one, even if it's a manner of saying something without actually saying it. But I like that language changes. I don't know many of those. I don't participate in them. I probably still say shit like "hella," because like that was
gnarly, radical.
I definitely say gnarly and rad a lot.
Yeah. You use rad a lot. Yeah, that's
awesome, gnarly.
I use awesome a lot.
So I love that. I mean, language will always change. Our language is going to be different than the language of young kids. It's fine.
All right. Freed entertainers. We had Bill Cosby, who was released from prison on June 30th.
I didn't know he was out.
Yeah, he's out. And then the biggest one of the year was Britney. She was finally freed from her father on November 12th. You have any feelings on that?
I think it's pretty hard to get an adult person confined without real good cause. I might be wrong, But I think there was probably a really good reason that she didn't have control over her life, and we're probably going to watch her spin out.
And shaving her head, attacking people with umbrellas.
I mean, it's just me guessing. I don't think they do that to people generally unless they really... Now, of course, she had hundreds of millions of dollars that they could take advantage of. So hey, I don't know enough about
I saw that documentary about her, and it was kind of like... It wasn't great, the documentary, but,
I watched that one too, the one...
It's interesting, just to see, how strict everything really was. So I was like, oh, okay, it shouldn't be that strict. But,
I mean, I don't know. I hope we don't see her spin out. I hope it really was like people were just taking advantage of her, and now she's free. Yep. I think some people are going to be disappointed because I think she's probably
great year for Britney Spears. Great year for Britney Spears. So, notable deaths. So I'm just going to plow through these ones. Siegfried and Roy, he died from pancreatic cancer at the age of 81. Mm-hmm. Like Siegfried? Siegfried?
No, whatever. Entertainer. I'm surprised those dudes didn't get both eaten by the tigers.
All right, Larry Flint of Hustler magazine. He died of heart failure at the age of 78.
Shocked that he was still alive.
F. Lee Bailey, the lawyer who defended the Boston Strangler and O.J. Simpson.
Should I just let you rattle these off and let you know when I'm surprised that I'm not surprised that these people are dead. I'm shocked they were alive.
He died of a brain hem. Oh no, I'm sorry. He died of natural.
Is Abraham Lincoln on your list?
He was 87. Ron Popeil. He's the one that died of a brain hemorrhage. Ron Popeil invented the Veg-O-Matic and the smokeless ashtray.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Again, didn't know he was alive. Okay.
John McAfee.
Yeah, that dude probably should have been dead long ago.
Yeah, the creator of the antivirus software and some other stuff. And,
notable eccentric.
Yeah. Found dead in a Spanish jail cell. He was 75.
Okay, yeah.
And one of your personal favorites, Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, I didn't know he was alive either. Yeah.
The mastermind of the country's biggest investment fraud.
Mm-hmm.
He got to die of natural causes in prison. He was 82.
Yep.
Prince Philip, 99. He was 99 years old. Husband of Queen Elizabeth. Old age. When you die of 99, should there even be like
I was going to say he died of old age? Weird.
Yeah. Bob Dole, former war hero and United States Senator and former presidential nominee for the Republican Party. 98. Died in his sleep. It's fantastic.
Sure.
Right?
It's a good life.
Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, 88, blood cancer.
I wish that dude would have been held to account, but anyway.
General Colin Powell, Secretary of State, complications of COVID. He was 84.
That one bummed me out, man, because I really wanted him to be president.
Yeah, he was he probably would have been president too if he ran, right? I mean,
I think he could have, but also then he fucked up with the Iraq thing and listened to them talk about weapons of mass destruction and ruined his own legacy.
Yeah, but he was very vocal about that when he found out. I mean,
I know, but I mean, it was just sad to see because that dude I think would have been the perfect mix of sort of military and intelligence and sort of conservatism and liberalism. Like I think he would have been really good. But
Walter Mondale. Jimmy
alive.
Carter's vice president, 93 years old, died in his sleep.
Do you have a list that maybe starts people in their 50s so I can be like, what?
That's coming up. All right, so so here's some notable news that happened in Arizona. I record this from Arizona. Arizona residents can finally purchase recreational weed legally for the first time ever. And I have a weed store literally across the street from me right here. And
did you rush right out and get some?
I was like,
yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. So there's, you know what I like about having a weed store across the street? Not that I go out and purchase it, but the fact that I think that it kind of like is good for society. Like, remember when people used to be like, I can't believe there's a strip club that opened up down the street. I'm like,
right.
Isn't that good? Isn't it? Like,
yes.
It makes people like not angry. Like,
yes, and
make everybody happy. So
and it provides the opportunity to regulate things and make them slightly safer. If you pull things, if you let people do things that they're going to do or if you deny them things they're going to do anyway, then they're forced to be participating in a black market.
I did hear people talk about how they're like, remember when weed was like kind of like fun and dangerous and you had to sneak around and do it?
Right.
Kind of like lost that kind of.
Well, and I mean, I've said this before, but I don't think I've ever had to fight anybody that was high on weed.
Right. I know. They're like, hey, man.
There just isn't. It just doesn't really happen. But
well, and I love
alcohol's been legal since 1938 or whenever they passed.
So on 420, they had a big giant celebration. I heard like music faintly coming from my apartment. I was like, what is this? And I opened up my back door and so they had a big. This is awesome. I loved it. I was like,
wait, and it ended with them turning over cars and breaking windows, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, that's only the drunk things. Okay.
Oh man. Yeah, no, so that wasn't happening. Yep. No. Tucson and Phoenix. They see the worst change in property affordability in the world. So
not a bubble though, right?
What's that?
Not a bubble though, right?
Yeah. So that kind of scrapped my plans of I was kind of like, semi kind of looking for like a little upgrade.
Just wait a year.
Yeah.
It's coming. There's no possibility that housing can increase as without wages keeping up.
Crazy.
It's a bubble, people.
Yeah.
People.
Crazy.
Your houses aren't worth what get there.
Arizona passes a bill legalizing online sports betting. Gambling online. I signed up for some free bets and I actually won some money. Right, most of the bets I lost, so I was like, well, that was fun.
That's how gambling works.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm just not a gambler. I just
but
I
haven't done any of that. I don't mind gambling when I go into a casino. I have no interest in gambling over sports or whatever.
I have some friends that are really, that's their hobby is like gambling. I'm like, wow,
well,
man.
Look, that's why football is the most popular sport right now, is because fantasy football made it okay to sort of kind of gamble. And now, the NFL is going to start playing on Saturdays now because Vegas is going to force them to. The Raiders are going to force them because people go to Vegas. They want to get drunk. They want to go to the game, and they go there on the weekends. So mark my words, they're going to start playing NFL games on Saturday.
I had my buddy Matt said he went to a Redskins Raiders game.
Ooh, you can't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Washington football team. He went to the game, and he goes, I didn't realize that it was so close. It's so close that you literally just walk right to the game, and you can it's that close, and you just walk right to the strip, boom, and you're there. And I'm like, whoa! And he's like sending pictures and stuff. He goes, "Here's everybody walking right down to the casinos," and I'm like, whoa! I didn't know it was that close.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, they're gonna have to start playing them on Saturdays. So
that's wild, man. All right, we're moving on to sports here. So we have a couple of scandals. John Gruden retires as the head coach of the Raiders, who we were just speaking about here. And after offensive email surface going back to as far as 2010, we are all screwed, Lee. We are screwed. I think you mentioned it earlier. We are all screwed. 2010.
Right.
But, then they have all these players in the league that are,
currently beating their wives.
They're killing people. And
right.
Yeah, okay.
If we were being honest about that, I'd be fine with it. Like, hey, we're paying these guys to be gladiators, and we don't give a fuck what they do socially because we want them to be gladiators for entertainment. Right. But this part where we're just going, just hunting for ways to ruin people's careers.
It's weird.
It's baffling to me because it happens to, like, if you're searching somebody's background right now to see if you can get them fired, it will happen to you eventually.
Sure. Yeah, you could. I'm sure I could find some way to fire everybody I know, right?
Everyone that we've ever met. Yep.
All right, and we had Aaron Rodgers, who deceived the press by saying he was immunized.
Right.
When asked if he had taken the vaccine, I think that he's pretty much already forgiven by now because the way
he's winning,
the Packers are just vast. Look, he's so good at what he does. Yeah. People are like, oh yeah, that did happen this year. Yeah, that's right. Packers are probably, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. Who knows if they're going to be in the Super Bowl.
I feel like this is their year.
Yeah, it could be. Biggest sports story. The comeback kid. The comeback. I like how that's he's not the comeback kid. He's like the guy that's always there. Tom Brady not only takes his new team to the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he does it without head coach Bill Belichick, which who everyone was like, well, he can't do shit without.
He'll fall apart, right? He'll fall. We all hoped that, right?
Not only did he win the Super Bowl, but he won the Super Bowl MVP of the league, or of the Super
game,
Bowl.
right?
Is he officially the greatest of all time? I think
he is. I hate him. I can't stand him. But now, and there's some questions because obviously there's the Tuck rule, the deflate gate. Like there's a whole bunch of reasons, right?
Every year,
but he with all of that attention, with all the opposition, he went and did it with a team that had no business even being near a Super Bowl run. And he just walked right in and did it, and he led them. It's clear that he is that good. It's clear that he's that good. I hate saying that. I can't believe I'm saying it. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time.
Tom Brady is the GOAT. Tiger Woods, another possible GOAT, crashes his car and suffers a very serious injury. Well, multiple injuries. Reports say that injuries were so severe that he almost ended up losing his leg. That's pretty wild.
That's bad.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, well, it's not funny, but it came out like soon after HBO released that documentary about it. Did you see that documentary about him? It was basically going over his life, and they're talking about talking to his ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. I was like, oof, yeah. I mean, this is what can happen when you're super famous as a little kid on Johnny Carson's show.
Right.
You know? But yeah. Biggest I showed you that one clip of that those two basically half court shots in basketball.
Oh yeah.
What was that all about? That was crazy.
It's nuts, but it's also, I mean, like, we used to have to heave a ball from half court, like totally heave it. And now these guys are so big and so strong that it's just a normal shot.
It's just like,
and I know we can't ever do it, but basketball is the one sport that I would advocate for making the court bigger and the hoop taller.
I mean, they've done it. They've done it in a lot of sports where they've added certain things into.
Right, but the problem is you can't. If you change specifically the height of the basket, you can no longer compare current players to Michael Jordan.
They moved
to Larry Bird.
They moved the goalpost back in football.
Right, but that's and I mean they've added the 3-point line in basketball. Like, you can do things. I hope they do, but I think that specifically changes things in a way that makes it really hard for them to do. But in my opinion, they need to. Basketball is too crowded. The guys are too big.
Roids.
It's boring to watch.
What about roids in baseball?
I mean, guys have been cheating forever. They've been cheating forever. I like that they try to attempt to make it fair, because you shouldn't be expected to do that if you want to compete. Right. And that's the argument for it. But also, if you're an adult and you want to jam shit in your body and take that risk and do whatever, okay, especially for hundreds of millions of dollars, if I was in their position, I would do the same thing. So,
speaking of baseball, is there going to be baseball next year?
Fuck, they better get it figured out, because we got our tickets, man. We're coming down.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I guess we could just sit by the pool, but it's March. It's not the best time to sit by the pool. Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I hope.
The Major League Baseball owners lock out players for the first time since the 1994 season.
I think they will not have it settled because they're morons. Baseball doesn't. I mean, Rob Manfred Manfred's a terrible commissioner. The Major League Baseball Players Association is full of fucking morons. I think they're gonna mess it up. I think there's not gonna be a season. I think they're gonna mess it up.
Come on, man. Have some hope. Have some.
Well, there's also the part of me that says the Mariners are finally good. And so when Griffey was on pace to break Roger Maris's record in 1994, they went on strike, and he totally would have owned it. That was before McGuire and Sosa and everything. 95, we played half a year and he got hurt. And then it was never really him running. But in 94, he would have broken Roger Maris's record. The Mariners were going to be good. 95, they would have been exceedingly good. And so the baseball gods said, no, let's just cancel this season.
Seattle, man. It's Seattle.
And so that's on my mind. Like, the Mariners are good. They're good.
The big news this year, though, was the return of the fans in the stands. Gosh, you know what? Just seeing that.
It does make all the difference.
It really does. Like seeing all the cardboard cutouts last year, I was like, oh man, this is so weird. Especially by the way, for some reason, football, remember like they would like pump in the sound.
Right.
Like, it's just
never, each stadium was like a little bit wrong. And they had like, they tried to get that ambient noise.
Right.
Some of them got it kind of right. And some of them just sounded like a weird static.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not good.
Yeah.
So it was good to see fans in the stands. So funniest sports moment by a fan in the stands. This was bigger than just your normal video clip of someone in the stands. So you'll see all those like fights in the stands and stuff like that. But a fight in the stands took place at a Suns game in the playoffs. And trash talking quickly escalated to a beer.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things.
Being poured on some guy's head, and he retaliated by shoving the guy, and then the other guy sucker punched him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't.
And then the dude just fucking owned him. Yeah. Yeah. And his friend. He took his friend too. Like, I love that.
And then it became like a T-shirt, a saying, like,
It's Suns in 3 or whatever.
Suns in 4 or whatever, right?
Whatever it was. It had to be 4. Yeah, Suns in 4. I loved every bit of that because those two dipshits deserve to get their asses kicked.
So great.
And that dude was nice. He's like, trying to be nice. And then finally the dude sucker punched him. Like,
that's how it should be. You talk trash, but remember, this is like when fans just started going back into the stands.
Yes, totally.
So like people are just hammered.
Right.
Like, the guy's like wasted, and I saw that guy that got punched out, just owned. I saw that guy like on a reaction video. Some guy had him as a guest on his show, and it was so embarrassing. I was like, this guy's a moron. Really stupid.
But that's the thing too, is like they don't learn lessons. Like you would think that guy would be like, well, I did get out of line and you put me in place. No, he's like, whatever. Like, I don't know. Yeah. We need to punch more people. Anyway.
Yes. That's like the theme of this podcast is like, more people need to be punched.
It's the theme of my life. More people need to be punched.
All right, some sports deaths, Lee. So Tommy Lasorda, famous Dodgers manager, 94, died of
Great life.
Yeah.
Great life. Yeah.
And by the way, he lived to 94 being a big fat guy.
Yeah. Money. I think money helps.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Bobby Bowden, legendary Florida State University head coach from 1976 to 2009. He is the 4th winningest coach in college football history. 91.
That's good life too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hank Aaron, most famous for breaking Babe Ruth's home run record that stood for 33 years until Astros. Gary Bonds. I almost said Bobby Bonds, but
his autobiography is great. I listened to that this year while I was backpacking.
Yeah, all those death threats that he got,
and just the fact that he didn't even really like baseball after a while. He just did it because he knew that that's where he had to be.
Wow.
Like he just kept going, and he's like, no, I'm not. Almost for spite, he did it. So,
wow. So he was 87, died of natural causes. Elgin Baylor, Lakers 11-time NBA All-Star, 86, also of natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
Both Al Unser and Bobby Unser, Indy 500 guys. Al was 82 and Bobby was 87. Mm-hmm. Both pretty, 80s, pretty good, man. Marty Schottenheimer, he had Alzheimer's. He was 77. He was the famous coach for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Rusty Tillman.
Yeah.
75 years old. Yeah. Seahawks special teams coach. Don Sutton, the Dodgers Hall of Fame pitcher. He was 75, kidney cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Westphal, NBA Hall of Fame player and coach for the Suns and Sonics. I guess he coached and played for the Sonics as well, but he's mostly known for the Suns, I believe. And 70, he died of brain cancer.
It's weird. It's weird that these guys that because I remember Paul Westphal.
Yeah.
Probably in his 40s, like coaching and kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And that's my memory. And then, but from 40 to 70 goes so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think because we're in our mid 40s now.
Right.
That's coming fast for us. It's weird. It's weird to think because I remember him at 40 and now he's dead at 70.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got something to look forward to here, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Spinks, Leon Spinks, known for beating Muhammad Ali in 1978, but he's probably more famous for getting knocked out by Mike Tyson in 91 seconds. And which is presently the 6th shortest heavyweight title fight in history.
Yeah.
He was 67. He died of prostate cancer.
Kind of surprising he was still alive and that he died of prostate cancer. I would have figured something to do with getting punched in the head by Mike Tyson.
Yeah, head
and Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, another 80s boxer who fought Roberto Duran, Thomas the Hitman Hearns, and Sugar Ray Leonard. He was 66, died of natural causes. And Mark Eaton, you remember Mark Eaton, the big white guy, NBA center for the Utah Jazz? He was 64. He died from injuries of a bicycle accident. He was like, it must have been like some serious injuries, right? To like,
shit, wow.
Bike.
And I guess you can wreck a bike pretty hard.
Yeah, I've had some close calls myself. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And then Demaryius Thomas, the wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, he was 33. He died.
Did they determine, was his like a seizure or something?
Yeah, he had a seizure. Yeah. So
that's fucked up.
That's young, man.
Yeah.
33 years old. Moving on to movies and television. So, one of the biggest things that happened this year was, so I think was it last year that Alex Trebek died of a
I think so. Yeah.
Prostate cancer,
Yeah.
or no, pancreatic cancer, right? And
some cancer.
So
Yeah.
they're kind of like scrambling. They were like, okay, well, we need to find a replacement.
Right. That's been a mess of cancel culture.
So, yeah, in January, I think they announced all these people that were going to like be trying out for the replacement, and the list was just, I mean, who didn't try out for this? It was like, they had Katie Couric, LeVar Burton, Joe Buck, Savannah Guthrie, Dr. Oz, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. And Blossom and Ken Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up selecting Mike Richards, who was the show's executive producer. And he ended up stepping down literally like the day after they announced that he was going to be the new host. They came out with here we go again. He stepped down after sexist and inappropriate comments surfaced from a podcast that he used to host.
Man, we're so fucked.
We are screwed.
Thanks for recording all of these, by the way. It's gonna turn out well for us.
Look, we're already going down anyways. So
I know. No, yeah, we're
whatever. So now the so that was kind of I don't even know. Did they pick somebody? Blossom, I think, is going to be doing some of these shows and whatever.
They should have picked LeVar Burton. I mean,
right?
Come on.
Everyone loves LeVar Burton, but I didn't watch any.
And
Did you watch any of these? The tryouts? No. I didn't watch any.
No, but I mean, the point is, it's entertainment. Like, pick entertainment for the people who are watching. I think most of the people who are watching are not young, so they're old. So pick somebody that resonates with this generation, and then it's not like he won't entertain young people also. Like, pick
everyone loves
Reading Rainbow LeVar Burton. Like, it would have been great.
Star Trek and was he in Roots?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Okay, so these are kind of like, now I'm kind of like going into, I didn't watch a lot of like scripted TV show, like
network.
Yeah, like I didn't watch a lot of that. I most of the stuff that I watched this year was kind of like documentaries. And by the way, we are in the golden age of documentaries, and I love that they are just coming out with just massive documentaries because I can't get enough of them.
Yes, neither. I love it.
I'll watch documentaries that I really don't even have much of an interest in, and I just want. It's just so cool that they're making all these.
Yeah,
I love it. But my favorite newly discovered TV show this year is a show called, I don't know, you being with Jewel, you've probably seen this show. I had never seen this show because I never had this channel, but this channel just popped up and I just started watching this show called Air Disasters on the Smithsonian Channel. And you would think that it's like that sounds like a horrible thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's like, basically they show you, they reenact like what
happened.
Right. And then they go into the technicality of, they break it down of why it happened. And it you would think that like watching a show like that would make you scared to fly, but it makes you feel better to fly because of all the advancements and technology that has come over the years.
I might have to watch that. I would watch it. Jewel wouldn't, just because she doesn't even want to consider that stuff. But I think she probably would appreciate it because we talk all the time about, almost always, especially in aviation, it's what's called a cascading failure. It's one thing went wrong, followed by another thing, and each of those represent an opportunity to change the outcome. Yes. And it takes multiple failures for something to happen, which does make you end up feeling better because you're like, wow,
it really does.
There are a lot of checks in place.
And think of all the stuff that's added over the years, all the regulations and stuff like that is added to make things better. So it's
so much has to go wrong for us to ever hear of any of that stuff happening.
Yeah, and I mean, this stuff used to happen a lot more than it does now. You know, it still happens on occasion, but. And
I will take this, since you brought up aviation, I will take this moment to say that's the best run government thing we have. The FAA is fan-fucking-tastic. They run things. Think about how complex the FAA is and what they do. They do it great.
Yeah.
If the government did everything that way, I'd be a government fan. So anyway, that's a divergence.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, and then I did this last year, and I think I did it the year before, but the show that I still cannot believe that is still on the air, and it was actually shocking. I was like, they have had to have ended this show by now, is The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is still on? My brother goes, yeah, I was watching The Walking Dead, and I go, The Walking Dead is not over yet? The show ended like years ago. What are they doing? They're just like walking around, like killing zombies. I
never got into that show, but I'm shocked to hear that it's still on. I'm also super happy that Always Sunny in Philadelphia is still on.
That's still on too? I mean, I love it.
It's the longest running live action sitcom in history now.
That's so great.
Yeah, The Simpsons are still longer but they're not live action. So.
Right.
But I think they're in like season 19 or something.
Wow.
It's a lot.
The worst season of a show that I saw this year was I really liked the first season. Second season was okay. This is usually how it goes, by the way. And then I don't know if you've ever seen the show You.
Mm-mm.
It's just called You, and it's on Netflix. And season 3 came out, and of course I binge watched it because I watched the other ones, and painfully awful. Right. Okay. But anyway, I just want to point that out. The show's on my bucket list. I don't know if you've seen any of these shows. Ted Lasso.
I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's good.
I've heard that's and Succession. Have you seen that show?
No, Jewel watched some of Succession.
Okay.
I probably do have to watch it. It looks really good. I've seen a couple minutes of it.
And there's another one I can't think of, but everyone says that I need to watch.
Billions looks like it was pretty good. Jewel watched part of that.
And then The White Lotus.
I haven't heard of that one. I don't know what
then there's I can't remember. There's the show that everyone keeps telling me to watch. I can't think of it. I don't have it written down.
Did you watch Squid Game?
No. Is that good?
It's super interesting because I can't believe they allowed them to make it.
Really?
It is gratuitous, and it's super interesting. Like the premise behind it and sort of the messages behind it are pretty interesting. It's not. I didn't get into it the same way most people did, but if from the very start, if you watch that thing into episode. By the end of episode 1, you're going to be wondering how in the fuck did this make it to a major thing like Netflix, and it's pretty rad because of it.
I'll definitely check it out.
It's interesting. Give it a shot. I mean, like I didn't get into the story all that much, even though I think it's cool. I was just shocked they allowed him to make it.
Gotcha. I'll definitely check it out, man. Most shocking moment in movies and television. We were talking about who had the worst and the best years of this year. This is not one of the good ones, man. Alec Baldwin accidentally shoots and kills his director of photography, is Helena Hutchins, who is 42, on the set of the Western movie Rust. And he claims that he didn't pull the trigger.
I'm torn on this one because, like, I feel like if it's your part, if it shouldn't have been his responsibility because there's a whole group of people who are responsible for that. But also, it should be his responsibility because he's holding a weapon, whether it's functional or not. And sort of like, he's an actor, right? That's not his primary thing. No. But if my primary thing was, I don't know, I can't think of an analogy. Part of his job, to do his job right, is to handle weapons. He has all the resources in the world. He should have been able to clear that weapon himself and know how it operates. And they ought to be able to have that final check where the person they hand it to isn't a complete fucking moron with it and just goes and does what he does. Now, again, not his fault. It's not his fault. There was a whole system set up that clearly failed. Again, a cascading failure. But he should, because it doesn't take that long to learn gun safety. It doesn't. And
first one of these since 1983 with
with Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, there've been other deaths, but I think
that's a lot of movies with guns that.
Oh yeah. Well, and one thing that bothers me about all that stuff, I don't know why they use real guns. You can just use airsoft guns for everything now.
And then use
they look fine.
Yeah, and don't they use blanks, right?
Right. But and you can do
put a sound effect in.
Right. I don't know. I'm a realist.
So well.
I prefer things to be real, but that's one area where I'm willing to suspend disbelief if you get the gun wrong. And it would bother me a little bit.
We have these days.
Right. No, I'm shocked, but I don't blame Alec Baldwin. I mean, I blame him in that I feel like that should have been something that he should have taken a few months out of his life to learn. I mean, look at Keanu Reeves. If you ever want to watch somebody who takes their craft seriously, look at Keanu Reeves do his shooting real guns at a range. So he would be good. Yeah, and go watch him shoot at a range it's all over YouTube in preparation for John Wick, where he never shoots a real gun.
Yeah.
It is astonishing and great. And to me, that's a reasonable amount of effort when you get paid tons and tons of money to do your job. Just
if you're going to take a role like that, especially
if you're going to be holding a gun, you better learn how to.
I'm sure Clint Eastwood could, handle a gun pretty well.
Right, and I bet Clint Eastwood would look at him and go, "Dude, come on, you should have learned this."
Yeah, I know that there were other actors that were coming out saying that, like, "Hey, look,
it's not that difficult.
Yeah,
you could learn it in an afternoon. Honestly, like it's not difficult,
horrible,
it's also tragic. I mean, clearly a lot went wrong.
Yikes. Most of like I said, most of the stuff that I watched this year were documentaries. So, Lee, did you see a lot of movies, like just regular movies this year? Were you watching a lot of new movies that came out?
I mean, I watched a lot just because I have it on while I'm working, but not really. I mean, I think what you're asking is, were there things that like I sought out to watch, like a movie I was waiting to see, and because that's what it used to be. Is like, oh, this movie's coming out, I want to go see it.
The new Spider-Man. Did you see the new Spider-Man?
No, I didn't do any of that. I just watched what happened to me on Netflix.
So I'm just going to name off some docs because like most of my stuff again is documentaries, right?
Yeah.
So I have a list of documentaries that I saw. I'm not going to list all the documentaries, but I'll just kind of list some of these and see if you've seen some of these. So I had the creepiest docs that I saw this year was the Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel.
I watched that. That was creepy. Yeah.
It's like, what is going on here? This is kind of creepy. The Last Cruise. Did you see that documentary?
I don't think so.
Basically, it was like the the cruise ship that was that, remember, like busted like the COVID stuff, and like everyone got infected, and I was like,
oh right,
like I'm watching a real life horror movie here.
Oh wow, yeah.
It was disturbing. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, so that was a creepy one. The Night Stalker, The Hunt for a Serial Killer. That was obvious reasons.
I think I watched that one. Yeah, about Richard Ramirez.
Allen versus Pharaoh.
Didn't see that one.
That was, I think it was on Showtime, or
that Mia Farrow and Woody Allen.
Yikes, dude.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
details
good.
that.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
The most depressing docs that I saw this year, Belushi. We all know who that how that ends up. The Tiger Woods documentary, I mentioned that I watched that earlier. The Bob Ross documentary. Did you see that?
Yeah, it kind of bummed me out.
Oh,
I mean, like, of course,
excited to see it. I was like, who doesn't love Bob Ross? This is gonna be great.
Of course, though, unless it's Mr. Rogers, it's bound to be depressing because he was the perfect human on screen, and you knew that it couldn't quite be that clean. But it does suck that it sounds like he kind of got taken advantage of.
Yeah,
like it doesn't.
Yeah, I heard people at work. We were on a Zoom call. That's what we do in meetings. We were on a Zoom call, and we heard, or they were like, "Yeah, I'm excited to see the Bob Ross doc." And I go, "Whoa, slow down! Don't get too excited."
Yeah, it's not about how cool the show was, right?
So yeah. And then the Val Kilmer documentary. Did you see that?
I did. I mean, it was kind of cool because I liked it. I like that he's looking back on it. He has some gratitude.
Kind of cool to see all those like old videos and stuff like that. But he goes, I took my video camera everywhere.
Yeah.
Nobody else did that.
No. But it also shows you like how fast this shit is going to evaporate for us. Because we're at that, like, up until just about middle age, your life and your body doesn't change all that much.
Yeah.
I think from like middle age on, shit starts going wrong in a hurry. And like he's a perfect example. He was he was super fit.
Yeah.
He was just whatever. And same with, Patrick Swayze comes to mind in that same sort of realm. Shit falls apart in a hurry. And I like that those guys, I like that he was able to look back on some of his stuff and say he documented it. Like you and I have talked, I don't document shit. The only the only thing history will have to tell about me is what you recorded. So I like that there's that stuff out there.
Some of that stuff from way back in the day probably will never see the light of day, but
let's hope so. But I'm just saying, but those guys, actors, have that opportunity, and I think it's kind of cool that he was able to look back with some sort of perspective and appreciate it. Yeah, no, that part was cool. The part that he can't talk anymore without assistance is that was it's not great. Seeing him was really shocking because he was one of the best looking guys. Totally right.
This was the guy that played Jim Morrison of the Doors. You're like, what?
Right.
This is the same dude right there.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible. The strangest documentary that I ever saw, well, that I didn't ever see, but
this year.
Weird. The Al Davis versus the NFL documentary. I don't know if you
I haven't watched that.
Like one of the 30 for 30 documentaries.
Yeah.
They did this thing where basically they did these creepy special effects where they have him talking, but it's not him talking. It's kind of like what they did with what's that movie that Scorsese?
The Irishman.
Yeah, where they kind of basically he's telling the story, and I'm like, what? This is weird. He's
sort of computer generated him.
Yeah. So they kind of
like
did
a deep fake of Al Davis.
Yeah. It was really strange. I was like, all right, I can't get past this. This is weird.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an interesting guy. But sports docs from this year. WWE did some docs on Roddy Piper.
That'd be a cool one. I haven't seen that.
In the Macho Man. I learned some stuff about the Macho Man. I was like, because everyone knows about the Macho Man with obviously he's wrestling and
I knew he played baseball. I still haven't seen that, but did they go into his baseball career at all?
I don't know. I can't remember if they did, but I always wondered what happened to him later. And they kind of went into that, and they're like, he was so. All these guys are to a point on roids, right?
Yeah.
But that guy was massively on roids.
Way.
It's like, geez, dude. They were like, whoa, man. Maybe you should slow down on the roids.
Yeah, when Hulk Hogan tells you to cool it with the roids. Yeah, maybe listen.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you saw this one yet, but this was a series that was released on Netflix called Bad Sport, and they did a bunch of.
No, but I've seen. I got to watch that. Is that? Yeah, I've seen that.
There's some really good ones in there. So there was one called Hoop Schemes. There was Need for Weed.
Mm-hmm.
These are the highlights of
Gold
War and the Horse Hitman. Those are the ones that I recommend, and they were awesome.
Right.
They were really entertaining.
I gotta watch those because they've been on my list. I just haven't
super good. It's entertaining. Very very well done. I showed them to Eric, and Eric's like, these are pretty good. And then the 30 for 30 did one of the Once Upon a Time in Queens of the 86 Mets. So that was kind of fun to see.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
It was kind of fun to see how out of control those guys were.
Oh man, yeah. Daryl Strawberry and
yep. So, some notable deaths, Lee. Notable death. What
more death?
Section wouldn't be complete with some notable deaths.
You and your goddamn obituaries.
TV deaths. Cloris Leachman from Mary Tyler Moore Show and Malcolm in the Middle and Bad Santa.
I just watched her in some really shitty Christmas movie. Because Joel just watched Christmas movies. I watched her yesterday and we looked her up. Take a stab at how many movies or how many acting credits Cloris Leachman had.
Oh, it's a mile long.
Yeah, 272.
It's crazy. Yeah, she died at 94. Stroke.
Yeah, it's good life.
Yeah,
good life.
Totally. And she was talk about a worker, man.
Yeah, and she was funny. She was. She had a good sense of humor. She's like, we want you to play some old lady, just passes. Right. Well, the guys from Super Troopers when they did their whatever that beer movie, Beer Fest, or whatever. She's in that one. She's hilarious in that.
Yeah, she's awesome. Man. Ed Asner Also, Mary Tyler Moore, who played Lou Grant, 91, died of natural causes. Good life there. Larry King of CNN's Larry King Live. Who, suspenders, leaning over. Yeah. He was 87, had sepsis and complications of COVID. George Siegel from Just Shoot Me. He was 87, complications of bypass surgery. Willard Scott, who also did what we're doing now. We talk about deaths and the weather, right? Isn't that the guy that did that? NBC's Today Show, he was 87, natural causes. Dean Stockwell, do you know who that is?
I do. Yeah, he was on the A-Team a couple times, as I recall, and he was he's
Quantum
80s. Yeah, he was on A-Team a couple times. Quantum Leap. He was 80s like action TV guy.
He was 85, died of natural causes. Felix Silla, not one of the most well-known people on here, and I see by your face you're like, don't even know who that is. You shouldn't, because he didn't show his face. He played Cousin It on The Addams Family and Twiggy on Buck Rogers. He was 84.
Wow. All right. That's the best kind of fame. That's the kind of famous I want to be.
Exactly. Just be some like business guy that has millions.
Yeah. Nobody. Yeah. I want to be the third Manning brother. I don't even know his name.
And Clarence Williams III, who was in the Mod Squad, he was 81, died of colon cancer. Marky Post, Night Court.
Yeah, Night Court. Bummer. And Something About Mary.
Yep. Cancer. Eddie Mecca. He was from Laverne and Shirley, a.k.a. Carmine, or the Big Ragu.
All right.
He was 69. Peter Scolari. Who's some
buddies? Yeah.
Newhart and Girls. Did you ever see Girls?
I don't think so.
Like an HBO show. Interesting show. He played like the dad. He was 66. He died of cancer. Norm Macdonald.
That's the bummer.
Norm Macdonald.
He was. I commented on that one when it happened. It felt like the death of comedy, because I don't know of anybody else out there right now who really genuinely doesn't give a fuck who's standing next to them. They will say Gilbert Gottfried's probably the closest. Yeah. And they will just, that to me is comedy. They don't say it for you.
Yeah.
They say it
they
for
do
them.
it for the sake of comedy.
Yeah. They say it because they think it's funny. And if you want to be in on the joke and you think it's funny too, great. But it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
And to me, that is what comedy is all about, is you say the thing that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And if it happens to be genius and make other people laugh too, then maybe you get a career out of it. But Norm Macdonald was exactly that. He didn't care who was sitting next to him. He would make the joke.
Yep.
So that's what made him such a great guest on like talk shows and shit. Yeah. Like one of his best appearances was on Conan, when he totally not even accidentally, it was on purpose, but like the poor Courtney Thorne-Smith interview when she was talking about the movie she did with Carrot Top, and he just shredded her.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm sitting right here. And he didn't care. And I'm sure afterwards he's like, hey, I love you. I'm sorry, but those jokes just had to be told.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
You're in this new pile of shit movie? Okay. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that Norm didn't care. Like, some of his stuff really was dumb. Like it wasn't all brilliant genius shit.
He's like Reggie Jackson. He'd like swing for the.
He would. And he's different than because Carlin, everything he did was super refined, super sharp. He was a razor sharp comic, and everything that George Carlin did was good. It was great. Yeah. Norman Donald wasn't, but he was the fastest guy. He could just make up something funny. Yeah. As he sat there. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It sucks that Norm's gone.
61 years old. Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Tawny Katane.
I'm shocked she made it this far.
With the White Snake videos on MTV and the movie Bachelor Party was kind of like
famous teetotaler. She didn't drink or do any drugs, right?
Yeah, she died of heart disease at 59. Yeah. James Michael Tyler, who played Gunther on Friends, he was 59, died of prostate cancer. And William Garson from Sex and the City, he was 57. pancreatic cancer. Kind of like those are kind of like similar guys. Like they were like in the show. They were
kind of supporting. Yeah.
Michael K. Williams from HBO's The Wire is 54. Accidental drug overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, I know this is one of your favorites, Lee. At age 44, Dustin Diamond played Screech on Saved by the Bell.
That's a bummer. Yeah. And I mean, you can't necessarily correlate, cancer with anything else because it can happen to anybody at any time. But I feel like that dude did some bad things to his body. So I don't know.
I think that that guy was just not like after he left that show, he's just a horrible dude. Like you'd say.
It doesn't sound like he's,
But that was one of the craziest ones because I remember this was like, I think it was earlier in the year, but he was like, yeah, I went to the hospital. It was like, it just immediately just felt like shit. He's like, oh my God, I feel horrible. And then like a couple of years later, they're like, Justin Diamond's dead. And I was like,
totally. Not even a couple of years. God. It was like a couple months. Like he went in there like
real quick. They're like, you have carcinoma. You have cancer.
Right. This
is not good. And
it is scary because that can happen. I mean, I have a close friend who had that happen with his wife. They went in, they're like, "What's wrong?" And then literally a month later, she was gone. It's like, poof. So, but again, that's that thing with middle age. Like the shit starts happening. It's like, fuck.
Some notable movie deaths: Cicely Tyson, who starred in the films Fried Green Tomatoes and The Help. She was 96. I had some heart problems, but that's winning. 96 years old, that's win.
I like how you followed it up. She was 96 and had heart problems. You could leave that off. She was 96.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Hal Holbrook, who starred in the films Wall Street, The Firm, and All the President's Men. He was 95. No cause given. None needed.
None needed.
Jackie Mason, famous comedian who had roles in The Jerk and Caddyshack 2. He was 93. He was having breathing problems, which he was 93.
Because his lungs were 93?
Richard Donner, the legendary director of Superman, Goonies, Lethal Weapon, The Omen, and Maverick. He was 91 years old, died of a heart attack. Olympia Dukakis, she starred in Moonstruck, Steel Magnolias. She was 89 years old, had Alzheimer's. Charles Grodin, who always came off kind of like in interviews, he looked like he was a dick. Like, I don't know if he was, but he just had that kind of like vibe.
He did have that kind of dicky.
Yeah, he was in the Great Muppet Caper, Midnight Run, and Beethoven.
Midnight Run, yeah.
Yep. 86 years old, bone marrow cancer.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, it does. James Hampton, who played the dad on Teen Wolf, who's the guy that I think that you should play one of these days. Open up that door, Scott.
I do have the beard for it.
He was 84, Parkinson's. Ned Beatty, Lee. Ned Beatty. He played Lex Luthor's sidekick in Superman, but he's probably best remembered for his role
Deliverance
as the poor guy.
Who got?
What's the word for it, Lee? What is this? Where are we going?
I mean, I'm trying to think of a good euphemistic term for this.
Violated.
He got.
What's the famous line from that? I'm gonna make
the butt.
Squeal. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He was 83.
Anyway,
it was a great.
Yeah, that's
great. Tribute.
It's a bummer that that's what he's remembered for, but.
He worked his whole career after that, trying to erase that. Couldn't.
And all they remember is the butt fucking.
All right, there's one, Lee. Yaphet Kotto.
Yaphet Kotto. Yeah, man. He was the commissioner in The Park Is Mine.
Thank you. I almost wore that shirt today.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was also in Live and Let Die, and he was 81. Natural cause.
He was in The Park Is Mine. That's a Good Life.
Exactly. Nobody knows what we're talking about, but
go watch The Park Is Mine, people.
Yeah, it's on.
You might have to borrow it from one of us because we have it on DVD. Recorded off TV. Thanks, Sean.
You can literally watch it in really crappy, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
that's true.
Yeah.
Or just contact us. We'll send you a copy of the DVD.
There you go. Tommy Kirk, who is a legendary Disney actor from Old Yeller, The Shaggy Dog, and The Swiss Family Robinson. He was 79 years old, died of natural causes. I think this guy was one of those old school gay actors who like basically started not. I mean, if you're in Disney movies, and
Right.
you kind of get that reputation. They're like, see you later, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah, and then he became like a heavy drug user, and
Right.
yeah, he was like broke, and I don't know. It's just kind of bad because like that guy was like in some of the biggest movies ever, like back in the day. Art LaFleur, who starred in Cobra, Field of Dreams, and The Sandlot as Babe Ruth. He was 78, died of Parkinson's.
Yep.
And Tanya Roberts, this is a weird one, because you don't hear too many people dying of this, but she was a Bond girl from A View to a Kill, and played Midge in That 70s Show as the next door neighbor. She was 65. She died of a urinary tract infection.
And die from that?
I guess
so. It's an infection.
Yeah.
I guess you can
Isn't that
die.
wild? Yeah, so
You don't hear that very often, though.
65.
Wow.
Some social media stories from this year. The biggest meme of 2021, Bernie Sanders mittens. That was the biggest one probably. My favorite YouTube series of this year. I don't know if you watched any YouTube like shows or channels this year. I had Timeline's Decade series of the 90s. They kind of like go over like each year of the 90s, and they post it like every couple weeks. So that's a really cool show. I don't know if you had any of those that you watched that were semi interesting that are notable.
No, that series sounds pretty good. You know, for me, it's so hard because I don't really pay attention to much that I'm watching because I'm always working.
Yeah.
And so, but I'll put it on. So like one of my YouTube things that I like this year, there are two of them. They're just auto ones. One of them is Vice Grip Garage, where a dude just sort of like kind of renovates cars. And the other one is Hoovie's Garage. But the cool thing with those is I don't have to pay attention.
Right.
Like I can just sort
and
of
here's
glance
the finished product here.
Right.
And like,
and it's just
awesome.
and honestly, that's been sort of my ability to watch or participate in anything this year, is just sort of like, if it can happen while I'm working, I'll do it. Cause man, we're just doing everything we can to get all of our work done. So that's, unfortunately, it taints even like Squid Game. I don't know really a lot of the stuff that happened. I just know I watched the whole thing while I was working, and it was kind of shocking. But yeah, those are the YouTube things I did though. And it was mild participation on my part.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, doesn't take too much. TikTok video that I saw too many of. TikTok videos that I saw too many of. People on their deathbed urging others to get vaccinated. I saw way too many of those, and my algorithm called those. I watched those, and I was like, okay.
And I'm sure it convinced no one.
Nobody. Yep. My favorite TikTok channel, if that's what you call it, whoever this is,
sure.
Junk Wax Sal, and I think I've seen some of this guy's videos. Basically, all he does is open up classic sports cards from the 80s.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He opens them up right in front of you, like you're opening it up, and I'm like, this is great because I don't want to buy these, and I know that most of them are junk, like Junk Wax Sal.
Yep.
The funny thing is about this guy is he hates Harold Baines and thinks he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And every time he comes through like a Harold Baines, he goes, "Fuck Harold Baines," and he throws the card across the room.
Awesome.
And then he
must be a Cubs fan then.
I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever.
But then he'll eat the gum 90% of the time. If there's gum in the pack, he'll eat it. And he goes, "Doesn't look too bad."
I don't know.
These are like 35-year-old, 40-year-old.
Right. I don't know about that. I've participated in a couple of breaks with Toppy. These breaks are cool because cards are so expensive now.
Yeah.
You can't afford it. Like a box of cards now, they could be like thousands of dollars for a box of new cards, like not vintage. And so like Toppy got me into these. So you can just watch guys on YouTube open them, and you can win on eBay for like, $8. You can be like, I get every DK Metcalf card, and then they open them, and it's just as fun.
No way.
It's just as fun, but you pay like $8 and you get the card you want instead of all the shit.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. He's collecting all the Bosworth cards. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. All the Bosworth cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Which obviously that's why he and I started doing that. He's like, dude, I do some Bosworth ones. You want to watch? And sometimes he'll be in them. I won't even be in them, and I'll watch them on YouTube. He'll just send me a text. I'm like, cool, I'm working, and I'll watch him. And if a Boz card comes up, I'm like, oh, Rad, you got a Boz card. So
That is funny, man. Boz.
mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, that guy's pretty funny. And he just, if a pack sucks, which most of them do,
Yep.
he just say, well, that's another pack of hot garbage, or
Right.
like a hot shit if it really sucks. Just got a couple more things here real quick here. So the biggest losers of 2021 are Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram. So an insider who worked with the company, I think it was with Instagram, leaked their own research saying that they were causing teens to be severely depressed, and essentially Instagram's like, yeah, we're not doing anything about it. So she went to like 60 Minutes, and this kind of like they did a whole story of this. The next day after that aired, the next day, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp all shut down for 6 hours, and people freaked out.
Mhm.
And it was pretty crazy. It was like it was nuts. Do you remember that when everything
yeah.
shut down?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I
yeah.
didn't really notice, but I remember people talking about it.
Yeah, and then Facebook announced that they officially changed their name from Facebook to Meta.
Whatever.
Whatever.
I'm torn on all that stuff because it isn't their responsibility to curate the information. It's not. They need to put a label on there that says, hey, parents of kids, be aware, this shit can affect your kid, and let it go. Like, and they're private companies, and they are selling our information. They're like, I don't know. I wish people would stop expecting that all these companies are going to do the good and righteous thing. That's not what they're there for. They're
Yeah.
there to make money for the people that work for them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's tough. It's
parents, I don't have kids, so this is easier for me to say. Parents, it's on you. You got to protect your kids. They're not gonna.
tough. You heard it from Lee.
There you go.
And then YouTube, they kind of took a big hit as well. TikTok became massive in 2021. I mean, it really became.
Mhm.
I mean, it was already pretty big, but it exploded. So YouTube, they decided to be more positive, like TikTok, because TikTok is very positive. Like all the comments are positive. Like, it's all about, I like this and blah, blah. And everything's like real positive, right? So like YouTube, they removed their dislike button on YouTube. There's no
Right.
dislike button anymore. I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay. Or you can dislike it, but it doesn't show you the dislikes.
Right.
And then they also they made it harder to see videos that were posted the date for some reason. Or like, what was the date on this? Where's the date? I don't know what that is all about. And then I noticed that YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, they all started doing videos that are similar to TikTok. So
Oh, right.
of course,
Yeah.
they-
Of course. Right.
Um,
Well, and TikTok was building on Vine, and where the fuck is Vine now? They all just build off each other.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Some Stern kind of like took a hit this year because he's still doing remote stuff and people just going crazy on him. Some notable radio deaths: Rush Limbaugh, age
Again.
70,
Shocked he was still alive.
lung cancer.
Shocking.
Oswaldo Castillo.
That one was weird. I didn't know. Yeah, he seemed young, and I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't find his age, but I can tell you.
I bet he was in his 50s, right? Maybe early 60s. I don't know.
Again, the information that I'm about to disclose, I still don't know how old he was. Because it says he had first off, to describe this guy, he was in the Hammer.
Yeah.
He was also on the Adam Carolla show as kind of like a segment of whatever
Right.
Nicaraguan name.
A guest. Yeah. A regular.
Yeah. But he left behind 7 children, 29 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. I don't know if that helps figure out his age.
There's a cultural aspect in here.
I know. Yeah.
Cloud things. So he could have been in his 40s or his 70s.
Yeah. But I always liked him. He's like nice. He's like really, really nice.
The interactions we had with Oswaldo Castillo through Adam Carolla were fun.
Yes. And the winner for coolest person in music, again, for the, I don't know how many times this has been awarded to him, but Dave Grohl.
Deserved. He should get it every year until somebody else does more work for saving rock.
It's just so great. He had that that little 11-year-old drummer from South Africa, I think, from Nandi.
Yeah, let her come up and play it. Yeah,
and they finally got to meet in person because they were doing those little battles and stuff like that last year or whatever. And she came on stage and got to play drums with them. But the coolest thing that he did, which is hilarious, if you remember this, was he trolled the Westboro Baptist Church
on the trailer of the. I love it. Yeah, he's so cool.
They've been having some feud. Like for some reason, they hate him, and they've been kind of like trolling each other.
That's not the Westboro Baptist Church I was thinking of.
It's
they hate.
All they do is hate people. They could like protest like people's funerals and shit, and like, So on the flatbed truck, they basically said something to them, whatever.
Right.
This is all about love, Army's about love, blah blah, and played some Bee Gees song. You should be dancing. Yep. And the I'm sorry. The best reunion of the year goes to Randy Bachman. Are you aware of Randy?
I'm presuming Randy Bachman is Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Correct.
Okay.
And he was also the guitarist for the Guess Who.
Okay.
His guitar was stolen from him 45 years ago in 1976. And that guitar was returned to him in 2021.
Wow.
And that guitar can actually be seen in the video Looking Out for Number One. And which is weird because Lee, that was the last pretty much the last hit he ever had.
So it was the guitar. Everything went south after the guitar left.
Seriously, like he didn't have any notable songs that I could name after that. And there's rumblings that a documentary is going to be made about that, which there should, because that is an amazing
story,
right?
Yeah.
Daft Punk announces that they are breaking up. The Robots are calling it quit after 28 years, Lee. Hits include Around the World, One More Time, and Get Lucky. I have a feeling they'll be back, Lee. Don't you worry, Lee, because I know you're a big fan.
I know, yeah. Huge step.
In the music docs of 2021, the Beatles get back. I don't know.
I still haven't seen it. I got to see it when we get back. But
it's long as hell.
I've heard it's worth it though. With some, I've heard people say it's kind of boring in the middle, but I'm sure I would enjoy it a little bit more, as I'm sure you get more out of it than most people do.
Yes, because you learn a lot about the Beatles that were not previously known after this. So if you
the fact that they could even make a new documentary about the Beatles is astonishing. I love it. I love that they went and dug deep.
It is insanely. I could do a whole podcast on that. That's amazing.
Right.
But so go watch that. If you're remotely a Beatles fan at all, to any extent, watch that film. And then another great doc that I saw in music was the Alanis Morissette doc. Have you seen that movie? She agreed to do this documentary, and it's like sometimes you could see like that they haven't really fully agreed to do a documentary. They take like old interviews of them, like the Tiger Woods is one of them, where they take old interviews and you're like, oh, it looks like he participated in this doc. No,
right,
he participated in that doc. Alanis Morissette sat down. She was interviewed, but they didn't tell her apparently like the stuff that Taylor Hawkins was going to say in that doc, which was, he goes, the stuff with the Foo Fighters, we're pretty kind of PC, and we're pretty tame on our tours.
Mm-hmm.
The tours with her were the most debauchery filled, like crazy, like just
wow.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
I would not have figured that out. That's cool.
Yeah, so that was fun watching that. And then I watched the Woodstock 99 doc over the weekend, and we all know that was just the opposite of the other Woodstock.
Yes, right.
Fire going everywhere.
Lots of fire and death and mayhem.
Notable deaths, Lee. Don Everly of the Everly Brothers, 84, COPD. Phil Spector. Did you know he was still alive? Phil Spector?
No, about 80% of the people you mentioned I didn't think were still alive. So
he was 81, died of complications of COVID. Wall, a sound producer, and later convicted of murder.
Sure, yeah.
Charlie Watts, drummer of the Rolling Stones. He was 80, throat cancer.
Still not Mick Jagger. Still not Keith Richards.
Yeah, Keith Richards is never dying, yeah.
Every time I hear of any rock person dying. I'm like, well, fucking Keith Richards, man.
Exactly. BJ Thomas. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Hooked on a Feeling. He was 78. Lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry of Jerry and the Pacemakers. Bunch of hits in the 60s. He died.
Did he die of heart failure?
Blood infection in his.
Come on.
In his heart.
I know, but a pacemaker would have been hilarious. Come on. That would have been hilarious.
He did die of blood infection in his heart.
I mean, if it was an arrhythmia, that would have been hilarious.
78. Michael Nesmith of the Monkees.
Yeah, all right.
Michael Nesmith died of heart failure. He was 78. Who, by the way, he was touring. They just announced a tour that they were doing. George Frayne of Commander Coney and his Lost Planet Airmen. You know, the Hot Rod Lincoln. 77. He was cancer. Mary Wilson of the Supremes, 76, heart disease. Dusty Hill, bassist, keyboardist, and occasional lead vocalist of the band ZZ Top, sang on the songs Francine, Tush, and several others. He was 72. He died in his sleep. Greg Shock G. Jacobs, Digital Underground, The Humpty Dance. He was 57, accidental overdose. Biz Marquis. I predicted this one, or I was looking up how he died, and I predicted this is. How do you think Biz Marquis? He was known for the song "Just a Friend."
He's a pretty big dude, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna say probably heart attack, failure, obesity related.
From
obesity
type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the next one, I kind of thought the same kind of thing, but. Prince Marquis D of the Fat Boys.
I mean, you know.
He was 52, heart failure.
He didn't die running a marathon? It's weird. And
then DMX, who will live on and dances around the world with Party Up in Here. 50, heart attack. He was a heavy drug user.
Yeah.
Problems with drugs. Lee, that kind of closes out the this year. Do you have any bold predictions for 2022?
Yeah.
Baseball gonna be back?
I mean, baseball. I was going to make a much more dire one. There's an economic correction coming. There are too many things that don't make any goddamn economic sense. So I think that's coming in 2022. Which baseball, if they can get baseball moving, the Mariners will have a playoff team for the first time in 20-something years. I think it's going to get fucked up. Seahawks are going to rebuild. I think we're
Russell Wilson going to be back.
No, I think they're going to shed his salary.
Will Pete Carroll be back?
Well, I mean, they signed him, but I think he'll retire. When I think they're in, and I really have a hope that Jody Allen doesn't get sick of the team, because I don't think she's super interested in the team. Yeah. I hope that there was some provision in Paul Allen's will that said you can't ever move the team, you can't sell the team, you can't whatever, because somebody needs to take responsibility and make that thing. But Paul Allen was the reason that all of this happened.
Yeah, he was a fan. He was a legit
He was
fan.
a fan. And so I don't think that they have a fan right now running them, and nor anybody who needs the money or wants the money or has an ego about the team.
Speaking of fans, I see that you're wearing a jersey there. Will you be back in Seattle in 2020?
Possibly. Very possibly. We don't know. So Jewel is no longer an employee of the largest aerospace company in the world. She is potentially going to get back into that company if the right thing happens, but currently she is seeking that or other jobs that fit her skill set, and they're all here in Seattle. That's where we're looking. That's where we're hoping. But also, holy shit, it's expensive here. Holy shit. So we got to battle that. And then also in my company, we're making some changes. You know, like I said, I hired one new person, and we're going to use one of our other guys that lives in Montana now to replace me so that I can bump up and help Brian. That makes sense if we're here, and that changes my sort of outlook for 2022. So professionally, it's going to be an interesting year for Jewel and I anyway, because she will definitely be in a new job in 2022 for the first time in a decade.
Awesome.
And I will probably be in a new job myself. New, you know, same company and everything, but I'll be doing something different for the first time in almost a decade. So it'll be an interesting year, and maybe we move across the country.
Awesome. Well, hey, I wish the best of luck to you and Jewel, and I look forward to more fun podcasts with you in 2022. Yeah. I was looking through a list of all of the different kind of subjects and topics and stuff like that, and there's some good stuff in there, man. So I'm excited for that, and I definitely want to thank you again for coming on and talking about this year. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened this year, a lot of death, but there's a lot of death every year, right?
A lot of death every year.
A lot of death every year. Yeah. So
well, I'm hopeful that this year went by too quick. I was too busy doing stuff, and hopefully we get our company figured out a little bit where I have more time to actually do these, because they're fun as shit. Especially the ones with like Ethan and John. Like, I love those collaborative ones.
Yeah.
I want to do more of that. So I'm hopeful that this year I can pull my face out of my laptop and participate more.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, Lee, I guess this is it. So happy New Year to you, and I wish everybody good health, and we'll look forward to 2022 here, man.
22, man.
So yeah, for Lee Olson, I am Josh, and as always, come on, man, as always, thank you for being a friend.
Thanks, buddy.